Dang, I have a
suck
vending
at
machine.
jiu-jitsu.
Interrupt our
How do I
program to
suck
bring you
less
this
at
important
jiu-jitsu?
message.
Yeah, you can't do that in granite, bro. You can't do
just take
the
it.
honor system.
Have you seen my sign? I believe in the honor system, but we have cameras just in case.
You ever see the Simpsons thing that says it would be a whole lot funnier if those kids could read, or if those kids could read, they'd be in a lot of trouble. That's exactly how it is. Bryce, are we good to go? Are we recording? Yeah. Okay.
Oh Jesus!
All right, Kyle.
What am I looking
We didn't
into?
pre-talk anything.
No.
Just into my eyes.
Okay. Weird.
But we kind of, as far as I know, we have a little bit of a thought on where this is going to go.
Okay.
But I wanted to throw a curveball on you to start. Okay. So, Bryce, can you get the thing that I told you about, the secret thing that Kyle can't know about
Until now.
So you actually have a hidden skill. And this is something I don't think we talked about on the podcast, but one of your best skills. Okay. And so I thought live on the air, as they will do, like with you ever see Sway in the morning? Sway in the morning. They make the rappers, they'll do this thing they call freestyle rapping.
Okay.
Right. And so it's to prove that like you're a good rapper, I guess. But for you have this ability to create jingles. And you also love energy drinks. And so I was out picking out something to drink for this episode. And I thought I would get you and is that Alani, is it Alani New?
Yeah.
Okay, Alani New Winter Wonderland energy drink.
Wow.
And I know that when you see this, that it's going to spark something inside of you. So let's put you in, you're back to the old job that you used to have as the marketing director for a Fortune 500 company. And they bring you in this new product, the Alani New Winter Wonderland energy drink, and they say, Kyle, this 2024, this Christmas season, we've got to get these things off the shelves. What are you going to hit them with? What's the first thing that you're bringing to the table?
Pound this Alani and it will stuff your stockings. No? Oh.
That was so harsh to start with.
Oh, okay. Well,
holy smokes.
Well, like I told you, I already drank one on the way here, and I had in my mind, I said I want to drink some caffeine so I can rage on the microphone if I needed to. So I was bringing that to the table.
Okay. Yeah. So that's number one. Is there anything for the kids? the kids, if they're trying to market the 200 milligrams of caffeine to, let's say your 8-year-old, how is that? What is the? Oh man. What is the Winter Wonderland?
I need more time on that one. Let's come back.
Here,
let's
you can leave it out. You can even try it if you want. Okay. You can take a little sippy of it.
That might be bad news.
But it may give you the full spectrum on what that is. And so I thought that would be a fun place to start.
Nice.
But now we can really get rolling. Get talking about. I
thought that was a good one, just with only a couple seconds notice.
That was pretty impressive. Yeah. And that's honestly really where the skill comes in, because we've done this on a lot of road trips where any truck that you see that has a brand name on it, Kyle's going to give it some type of slogan.
Yeah. Well, I tell people that I think I was meant to teach jiu-jitsu, but my other calling, if I wasn't a jiu-jitsu instructor, would be to write like inappropriate greeting cards. And, as an opportunity missed, but it's okay.
Are you sitting on any greeting card gold right now, Kyle?
No. But we'll see what you get. We'll see what you get in your stocking for Christmas.
Okay. That would be an interesting. Why not at this point in your life go the greeting card route?
Yeah. I mean, I could. I have some time.
So the real reason we're here, the real conversation, we had a few topics that we could talk about for the 300th episode. And you and I had gone back and forth, and I think the one that we were both really feeling was talking about the greatest gym to ever exist, asterisk. you know,
Yes.
asterisk. But
R.I.P.
yeah, but the rise and fall, if you will, of the greatest gym to ever exist. And there's a lot of ways we can even go with this episode. But the thing I wanted to start with, the gym we're talking about is the Hit Squad. And for people who don't know, who weren't in the Midwest into MMA in 2008 in February, you don't know what happened, but there was something magnificent, right? Someone decided, for whatever reason, that they were going to build one of the first ever mixed martial arts super gyms in the worst part of Granite City, Illinois. To put that into context, in the worst part, in one of the worst cities, in one of the worst counties, in one of the worst states, they decided to drop this amazing,
What a great idea.
yeah, this amazing school. And that when things are getting built, before things are getting open, that's where you kind of come into this story. What is, and I know we've talked about this a little bit, but what is the situation for you? I know you are, where are you working when you get the offer to teach?
Yeah, I'm in Champaign, Illinois, and my title was operations manager of Kaplan test prep company. I was, a lot of people know that story, but I was fighting and had been, training martial arts for a long time and had a little bit of, local notoriety, but I got the offer to come down and be the coach for the Hit Squad, and I was like, oh my, this is wild, But yeah, Granite City was a little weird. I just kept thinking in my head, okay, it's close to St. Louis. It's St. Louis.
Yeah, it's St. Louis. So tell me this. I've never asked you this. What was the phone call? Like, what was or email or what? How did you get contacted or did you try out or what was the process? I know that processes wasn't the biggest, the skill of the Hit Squad, but what was that? And when did you come on, if you can remember, compared to February 9th, 2008 when they opened or when they had the grand opening?
I mean, it was right before that. I feel like I don't remember the exact when I got the call, but I was in my office and it was Mark Fiore, and he introduced himself, told me why he was calling, what was going on, kind of told me how he had heard my name from a few different people.
And you're very aware of who he is?
Not really. I mean, I knew I had heard his name, but I didn't know who he was, and. And he starts telling me this, that, hey, we would like to interview you. And I just remember being so excited, but also super, super nervous. Like, am I ready for this? This is a huge step. You know what I mean? Like thinking, these couple of big names, Matt Hughes, Robbie Lawler, and am I ready for something like this? But, so it was super, super exciting, but they wanted me to come down and interview. So, I was definitely nervous about that, but I was just like, be myself. It wasn't that big of a deal, but I was like, how do you prepare for a interview to be a jiu-jitsu coach? You know what I mean?
That's
so it's
great, yeah.
It's a little different than a, suit and tie type of gig, So I don't remember how long between the phone call and me driving down there was, but I went down and I remember it being it went on and on, not in a bad way, it's a good way. We hit it off. It was me, Mark Fiore, Todd Locks, the gym manager, and Matt Hughes. And we just, we were just cutting it up a bit. We were all laughing, just kind of sharing, and it ended up it went up a couple hours almost. And I remember, oh man, this is great, and it just seemed like a natural fit. And I was like, it kind of really solidified, yeah, I'm doing this,
And then you're there.
Yeah,
you're and not that you weren't teaching jiu-jitsu already, but you're now a full-time jiu-jitsu coach, full-time mixed martial artist.
Yeah.
And really, as much as we'll joke about the Hit Squad, at the time, the facility for MMA. I mean, there was nothing more beautiful. The color scheme was a little wild, but there was nothing more beautiful and more state of the art at the time.
Yeah.
Than the Hit Squad, and big.
Yes.
Is the Hit Squad.
I remember walking in and just like, I still remember like the smell of the place and just like it's like new and like smelled clean then, you know, obviously I see that change, but just remember like walking in and just kind of being in awe, like, wow, this is what I get to do. It's crazy. Cause I was dressing up in slacks and a button up every day, you know, working like a real job and just being like, oh man, this is what I get to do. And it was pretty wild. I still, you know, I was really nervous. I was confident in my jiu-jitsu knowledge and my jiu-jitsu skill and what I would be able to share and impart on people. But like just kind of going, just being thrust in this situation really quick, like leaving everything behind, like that kind of job, and just kind of feeling like, okay, that my destiny was over here. I was working in Champaign and thought maybe at some point I would teach jiu-jitsu a couple nights a week, but have a day job. And then all of a sudden, like, bam, I'm in this leadership position and still fighting for myself as well was pretty a shock to the system. You know what I mean?
Do you ever think about that opportunity? How crazy that was to, you know, it's not like you were the only dude doing jiu-jitsu in the Midwest.
Yeah.
You know, and you were a purple belt at the time.
Yeah.
And do you ever think about like life trajectory?
Absolutely. It was so weird. I'm very like, I'm one of those people that's very like a believer in like things being meant to be and like weird, you know, just things happening and people cross it, and it's not coincidence kind of thing. And I know a couple of things that were like in my favor. Just got a little bit of name dropping is they were looking for people, and oddly enough, like if you think about the drive, like from my hometown to St. Louis is about an hour. Raymond, Illinois, it's just like a little blip on the map. 1,000 people. Well, Mark Fiore just happened to move there, and he was willing to drive an hour every day. And because he moved there, a couple of my fights, the local newspaper like highlighted my fights, so he saw my name in the newspaper. And then Derek McGuire, that we're friends with, obviously he knew Todd Locks, the gym manager, and he had dropped my name. So there's just like that and a couple other instances where my name came up, and they're like, well, let's just see what this guy's got. And then when I think, I was able to be in front of them and they saw my personality and what have you, I was able to seal the deal. But yeah, when I think about it, it's pretty wild because there's so many people that you could have looked at that had a much more robust resume and been around longer than I had, could have been a black belt, not a purple belt. You know what I mean? So pretty wild. And obviously I'm grateful. And I think about it a lot, actually.
Man, that's and yeah, I think about it in the same way, that if you don't get asked, you're not my jiu-jitsu coach. If somebody doesn't open the Hit Squad, I might not even have done jiu-jitsu, and definitely not at that age, at that time. And then you go, okay, well, then there's still not jiu-jitsu in Granite City. There's still not dudes like freaking Bryce, who are able to train jiu-jitsu. And there's so many things that have rippled off of the few people's decision to open that gym. And even though, and this was the wildest thing to me, was it felt like because the gym existed longer, but the real heyday for the gym was the first ownership until they sold. There was just a ton of money getting put into the gym still, and it was, that was the real heyday. But that was only 3 years. And I see so many people on social media that, we're friends with, that we still know, that will share photos from those 3 years and be like, those were the days, and there's just so much that happens in that, and happened in that time.
Oh, absolutely. Well, and something you touched on just a second ago, I hadn't really thought about that as much. I know that we've had like a huge like ripple effect in the sense that like from my gym, there's been, obviously affiliates like yourself and some of the other students going out, and now they're improving a whole bunch of lives. But like you said, like if it wouldn't all started with the gym opening and then us all meeting there and then kind of branching out, it's just I think about how many people we've impacted since then. So it was kind of meant to be. I don't know, like if the gym hadn't have like went south, like would it have all went the same way too? Yeah. What I mean? But now it's like a bunch of us have gyms. We're all helping a bunch of other people. So it's just really, really cool to think about it. But yeah, Pretty wild.
While we're on it, we touched on it a few times. Let's talk about why the gym went south. Before we get into the good memories, let's talk about, because that is when I, say the greatest gym ever asterisk.
Yeah.
There were certain parts of the gym that weren't very good.
Yeah.
And weren't up to standard especially for a business. But then when I say, the greatest gym ever, there were certain parts of it that were the greatest gym ever, sure. That were just super, super special. Yeah. And, but you still, if you have a business, you have to make money. And that is the place they didn't make money.
Yeah, for sure.
And that's one of the worst business practices that a business can, one of the most unsustainable things you can do as a business is lose money consistently.
Yeah. Well, the thing is, like, I think they might have put more stock into the fact that, like, don't get me wrong, like, Hughes and Lawler had a huge name, and obviously a lot of people showed up, to see them and potentially be able to train with them. But I think they had too much riding on just that, like that people would come just because of the name. And the problem is, people did come for that, but it was only like short-term people, like people either just coming in for an autograph or a picture, or people that came to train. But if you think about it, if you think about the people that lived in the dorms, there was a constant influx, and there was a few guys that stayed most of the time. But when we came to find out towards the end, like nobody was really paying. You know what I mean? So it was just like there was no income, but a lot going out. And but like you said, it was just not it was not catering to the thing that would bring you in bring in money, revenue, like moms and dads and kids and things like that,
And like its location was, like I said, I joked, like it really was not just the worst part in a sense of like, it's a very crime ridden part. It's not that. It's just, it's so far out of the way. Most people are like, hey, I didn't know that this part of our city existed.
Oh, yeah.
And I definitely didn't realize that there was $1 million gym here,
Yeah.
And so I think that the location really hurt them from a marketing standpoint.
Yeah.
Then you go like, man, you wonder if Robbie had started winning in the UFC while the Hit Squad was still a thing. Would that have changed the trajectory of the Hit Squad? But then you also say, did Robbie's success at the end come from his new environment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Because the training was it was inconsistent.
Yeah.
Right? And it was very focused on cardio and like intensity and things that are very important.
Yeah.
But it just was less focused on the growth that martial artists have to do now.
Yeah, the more like scientific approach. Like it wasn't about, and I think that's probably hard too, because with the way they set things up to where there's like dorms and there's all these like traveling fighters, and you're constantly getting new teammates and training partners. And sometimes it might be a little harder to dial in on, like, since you, like, I think as coaches, you're like faced with all these different competitors that you may only see for a little while, and or I shouldn't say competitors, but all these different training partners, and you gotta in a short time learn what they're good and bad at and try to hone in on those skill set, and then they're gone, and then there's now a new batch of people. And of course there was the mainstays that obviously you could focus on, but I think it was a challenging environment, to create like ongoing success.
And it also was like, it was only 3 years, and you just, I that's the one thing I always wonder is like, man, if it was just given more time to, and I know that there were just things that would have had to change, but just wonder if it was given more time, because there are guys that went on to do very great things in MMA, and just in fighting in general. Give me some notable names.
Like Neil Magny.
Neil Magny's always a great one. Neil, the one thing that I always will talk about with him was, even when he was like an early on pro MMA fighter, he would do every pro MMA class and he was one of the few guys that trained jiu-jitsu every single night, also trained in the gi. And then he and I would do rounds after class. He would have trained probably 5 or 6 hours that day. Wow. And we would do 20, 30 minutes of just rolling after class, gi or no gi, just wanted to get better. And it just went on to show in his career.
Yeah. He was one of the ones, why I think he came to my mind first was like he was one of the ones that, despite, the training environment, and I don't say that in a bad way, like I said, the training environment, like we were just saying, is just like, we just go hard all the time. You know what I mean? There wasn't like a real scientific approach, like, with the proper recovery and stuff like that. But
to be fair too, that was also most of the mentality in fighting too. That was still very much the culture of fighting.
True. Yeah, we're going to be tougher than everybody. But Neil stood out in that sense that he was like extremely open-minded, and he was very like he's very open to all the coaches' suggestions and working new things and working technique and just one of those people, you see those people that are the growth mindset versus the performance mindset. He was always looking to get better, not just win every round and be the champ every training session.
And that is definitely one of the notable people. Obviously you have Hughes, you have Robbie Lawler, you have those the people that were kind of your mainstays, but it's so many other amazing MMA fighters come through. Who else do you have?
Matt Veach.
Veach was amazing.
Yep. He did really well with Frankie Edgar in the UFC. The first round or two.
First,
he was doing really well.
He was beating him down the first round, man.
Good.
And he cut a crazy amount of weight for that fight. That was a short notice fight for him that he took. That was really cool. I always remember guys that were super nice to me when I was, a 15-year-old kid just starting jiu-jitsu, and he and Clay French were always, they showed me all kinds of stuff, and I didn't know whether it was wrestling or jiu-jitsu. They were just showing me stuff, and I'm like, oh, this works, cool, and so those guys were always really cool.
Sure.
Who else you got?
Brian Foster.
Brian Foster. He had a really good UFC run. It was fun in researching this episode, kind of going through and seeing different news stories. It's just, again, it's crazy how many guys did make it to the UFC in a very short window. Yeah. It was like, and those, obviously no one was brand new homegrown, but those guys all came to the Hit Squad together and then started to get good. Yeah. And so, and to get good opportunities too. Here's a notable name that I got for you. You're not gonna. I bet you don't know this one. Okay, this is gonna shock you. Maybe you might not even know who this is. Hope Solo.
Hope Solo.
Goalie for the U.S. women's team. She's come under heat a few times for some other things. We won't get into that, but people like her because she's really pretty.
Okay.
No. I'm looking through random. I think I'm back. I'm on the Wayback Machine. You ever been on the Wayback Machine? And so I'm on the Wayback Machine looking through like the old homepage of the Hit Squad, because that's how you used to communicate with people, is on the homepage of your website. And it was like whatever St. Louis women's soccer team comes and lifts weights at the facility, and it's going through all the different people. And a name catches my eye, and I'm like, Hope Solo, she's super famous. Way more famous than any of the fighters ever got. Yeah. So that's a notable one to hit you with. Who else? Oh my gosh, you've got
Jeremiah Riggs.
That's where I went. I was going, you got reality TV star Jeremiah Riggs.
Yeah, what was it? Daisy of Love.
Daisy of Love. Yeah. And then he was on the show I Love Money. Okay. My dad still talks to him. As far as I know, he owes me a podcast. Oh. He's going to come and visit sometime and do a podcast. And I'm sure that would be good.
Wasn't he on another show? Wasn't he on like a wrestling show too? Like
he was on WWE's Tough Enough.
Yeah.
And he was, I remember he came and lifted weights with my dad after that. And he was telling us about being on that show. So he's on, 3 or 4 different things. He's on The Ultimate Fighter. He fought to get in the house in The Ultimate Fighter. Yeah. Dana said something along the lines of like, this is the toughest guy I've ever seen. He's like, let's get him some skill and send him back. He's like, this guy, He bare knuckle fights now. He's in the bare knuckle fight league now. But yeah, got to get that guy on the podcast. That would be fun. But he was telling us just about the experience of the WWE Tough Enough, and he's like, they really were pushing like, yeah, if you spend 2 or 3 years training in our program, you'll be a WWE superstar. And he's like, I don't want to do that. I'm not doing that.
I don't know what what I can say about Jeremiah. I have a lot of dorm stories about Jeremiah, but one stands out. I won't get too detailed and graphic, but he's one of the guys that I just remember, like, he just walked around the dorms naked, just naked, just letting it all hang out. And that's not even the funniest part. The funniest part is he just stopped and have a conversation with you. It's just like, you know how when you're at the the gym and there's old guys just walk around naked, not trying to make eye contact with you, not a care in the world. Well,
they always hike one leg up on the bench,
to shave or inspect or whatever they're doing. And Jeremiah was that guy, although a lot younger, and he just walked through the hallway naked, and just like it was his house, no, just totally normal.
So explain the dorms, and how it worked, where they were at, and just explain them.
Yeah, so the Hit Squad was on like a decommissioned like military base kind of thing, and they had old military barracks that they converted to dorms. And it was a really cool setup, and I thought it was awesome at being, this is going to be my job. Like, I can literally walk across the street to work, you know what I mean? So I remember, like, after they hired me, I went, I'm like, well, I'm going to move into these dorms, and I went down and check it out, and their rooms are like, whatever, 20 foot by 20 foot, like just a little square or whatever you want to, and I just remember them saying, you can have any room except the corner. That one was for Matt Pena. So I'm like, okay. So I picked the one, there's a common area kitchen. And so I just picked the room right across from there, which may have been a bad idea because, obviously like people congregate in there. So it did get loud, but I picked that room and then, moved in. And then over the course of time as the Hit Squad went on, they did a great job, like Todd, the manager, and Fury. They did a great job of like kind of advertising the gym. Come train with Lawler, come train with Hughes. And so it got onto forums. I thought it was really incredible how many foreign people would travel, or halfway across the world to come train with these guys. So at any given time, there was probably, I'd say, between 25 and 35, people, probably not 35, probably about 30, but probably about 25, 30 people living in these dorms. And they would just, train by day, live in these dorms and just, go back and forth. And so at any given time, there's, people from Australia, there's people from the UK, there's people from Germany, Greece, Finland, all these got to meet all kinds of people from all walks of life. And some came in where like they had been training a couple weeks and just wanted to meet Hughes and Lawler. And then there's other guys that were actually seasoned veterans that were really, really tough. And so they, really added to the stable of fighters. But it was pretty wild that, that people would just travel. And it was ongoing for that whole 3 years. It was just a constant influx of new blood would come in and stay in the dorms. And I was the mainstay, so I got to see all the wildness. And like I had mentioned to you before, like I really thought, man, if we could have done a reality show out of these dorms, it would have been pretty wild. I'm
sure it would have been. I'm sure things would have had to have been edited out heavily. But yeah,
Jeremiah for sure.
Oh yeah. I would say. Oh, do you know? Again looking back on stuff. You know what it cost to do 3 months of training and 3 months in the dorms? Like, so you are getting to train full time. Their schedule was basically all the way through the day when it came to classes. You can train at all of them. You have access to this amazing facility. You live across the street at the dorms, across the parking lot at the dorms. 3 months at a time. What do you think the total cost was?
I don't remember. I remember thinking, man, that's a deal, but I don't remember what it was.
Give me a guess. What do you think?
Wait, so it's 3 months in the dorms and 3 months of training. I don't know, like $795, $895. I don't remember.
Holy smokes! It's $900. That was
really?
impressive. That was a
cool.
good. That was a good
Yeah,
yes on it,
good.
man. So for $3,600 a year, and then food,
Yes.
you can train full time,
Yeah.
be a full time fighter, and not have a worry in the world.
And that's if you paid.
And that's if you paid. I would say the international people,
they probably paid.
they came from a culture that like you paid for the things that you purchased,
Yeah.
and so there weren't IOUs,
and it's as good as money.
Yeah, it's as good as money. You can spend that anywhere, but I would say that paying, man.
Yeah, what a steal though, honestly. And I remember thinking to myself, even like that's why I thought it was so cool, because they, I wasn't making a ton as a manager at Kaplan, but it was, at the time, it was still good. It was a good real job, and they were willing to match that. And then I'm moving into these dorms, which all utilities, including internet, it was $300 a month.
And that was to have your full room too.
Yeah, the full room. Yeah.
You could
Some
go
people had
half.
to share.
You could go dorm style. Go.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that.
Half skis at $150, bro.
Yeah, that's crazy. I forgot about that. Yeah, but it's funny. I always thought it was funny too, because I always kept my room like really, really clean and neat. I always made my bed, and but it's just funny because of that, Todd always used my room to show prospective people. They're like, this is what it could look like.
Yeah, this is what rooms look like at these dorms.
He did not want to show some of the people's rooms.
That's funny. That's funny. You think we can convince Todd to reopen up the Hit Squad? Like, hey, dude, ditch the Pride Fitness.
Yeah.
Shout out Todd Locks.
Yeah.
Ditch it all.
Oh man,
let's get the band back together.
Get the band back together. I think that'd be great. I think he'd be a good lead for that. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the. I mean, we'll have to. Maybe he listens. Maybe we'll.
He can bring what's his one-eyed pug's name, like Knuckles. He can bring Knuckles as the gym mascot.
That's good. I like that. I would say that over the last 299 episodes, the Hit Squad has been brought up by 30 different guests that have been on. It's crazy how many different people are like, oh yeah, I remember training there, or I met you there, or whatever. And that was just kind of this center point. But for you, I just kind of had this question. This is more of a directed at Kyle question.
Yeah.
For you, do you think that like you could have fought in the UFC without the Hit Squad?
That's a good question. I've thought about that many times. That's a good question. I think I could have, but I think it would have been, I think the likelihood would have been way less. I think like the likelihood would have been way less. I feel like I had the drive. I had the work ethic. But let's not lie. I mean, like, it's kind of like what they say with fanatics getting the Bernardo bump. You know what I mean? It's kind of like getting the Matt Hughes bump. Obviously that's going to go a lot farther than just you winning a bunch of like random like Midwestern fights. You know what I mean? I did feel like I had the drive and the work ethic, and I felt like I was going to do, go as far as I could. But I think that odds wise wouldn't have been in my favor. Although I do think that, again, back to the whole coincidences or not coincidences and things happening for a reason, like the path there was very interesting. So I think definitely them saying, okay, hey, there's this guy that's coming to, because I still went through the tryout process. It wasn't like I just said, hey, I'm a coach at Matt Hughes' gym, and I was all of a sudden in the UFC. There was still a lot that I had to work towards.
You had fights before that too.
Yeah. So I probably had probably close to 20 fights before, I
think you were like 15-6,
something like that. Yeah. And so, I just remember they announced that they were doing lightweight tryouts for the Ultimate Fighter. And I literally didn't think about it. Todd actually brought it up to me, the gym manager. He says, "Hey man, you want to try out for the Ultimate Fighter?" And I was like, "Oh well, I'm a coach here. I didn't think you would let me, because I would have to, take off a lot of time to go do that if I made it." And I think he just thought, hey, it'd be really good for the gym,
Mm-hmm.
you know? And so I was like, well, yeah, I'll do it. And then I got people like you and, you know, Derek and a couple people able to cover my classes. So I remember going, it was in Charlotte, and I took a guy from Belgium, and I took DJ Fuentes from Texas. And so Belgium and a guy from Texas, and we drove there and tried out. But the wild part was, yeah, I'm sure it helped when they probably already had somewhere written in their list, hey, watch out for this guy, you know, keep him. But the tryouts, like, you still had to go through multiple interviews. You had to hit pads. You had to grapple someone. So there was still like a lot going into that. And I really think I nailed the interviews as far as being, you know, pretty ridiculous. You know, just the things I said. And,
that's the secret part of this podcast is the back, you know, the in between the lines is Kyle Watson is good at interviews. You know, he's a good interviewer, man.
I remember, yeah, they were, but it did help. I will say, I can't remember who it was. I knew someone that was on the Ultimate Fighter before, and I called them and I said, hey, is there anything I should be ready for? And he kind of gave me, he goes, listen, in the interviews, they're going to try to ruffle your feathers and they want to see how you'll react. So, you know, don't shrink, you know, when they say something mean to you. So that was kind of nice. And there was a couple other things he said that really gave me a heads up, like that I was ready for when we got into the interviews and stuff. And then, you know, and I put some ridiculous stuff on my application, like, you know, there's like 3 things somebody wouldn't know about you. And I put, I can take off my underwear without taking off my pants. Things like that, you know? And so, you know, so
did they make you prove it?
No.
Oh, okay.
No,
That's good.
But there were definitely some interesting questions, but, and then other things, like I said, were just kind of meant to be. I'm sure I've told you the tryout stories that, like, you know, about the grappling and the tie pads and stuff. Maybe not, but it was really weird because they assigned us into groups of 20 people. So your number this to this, right? Well, it just happened to be the tryouts were in coordination with, like, they had a UFC fight night, and I think it was Kenny Florian was fighting Takanori Gomi. And so Gomi had a crew of people there. And we're all like kind of getting ready, and our group is about to go. Well, I see this like translator talking to Dana and like pointing this guy out. So Takanori Gomi had a crew of people there from wherever he's from. And all of a sudden they're like, they want one of their guys to try out. So they just insert this jacked, short,
290 pound.
No, he was our weight, but he was just like, looked like a little fire plug. And I'm assuming from their camp, he probably knows how to grapple and just looked like he'd grapple. And they brought him in and they just matched him up with me. And I'm like, he wasn't even in the group. And I'm like, oh, great. But it just worked out perfect. Like I grappled him perfect. Like I knew they weren't as interested in you submitting the guy over and over. They just want to see action. So it was nice because the way I grappled him is like I swept him a couple of times and passed, and then we kind of got back into our feet. And so it worked out where it was nonstop movement, but I was winning the whole time.
Nice.
And then since I'm southpaw, I was like worried about the pad holding. So I ran over to all the pad holders really quick. And I said, hey, anybody here hold better for southpaws? And literally everybody at the same time pointed to one guy. And he goes, I got you, man. And that was perfect because he made me look so crisp on the pads. He was holding like awesome combos, and it was perfect. You could tell he knew how to hold for a southpaw. So all things like that just kind of like fell into place. And then, like I said, I felt like I nailed the interviews too. I was like, you know, I made them laugh and said some ridiculous stuff.
Yeah, I remember you coming back to the gym, being one of the only people that knew that you had interviewed, and you even saying like, I really think I did good. Like I'm not sure, but I really, I made it all the way through the interview process, and I really think I did good on it. Yeah. Yeah, we can. Let's take a quick commercial break. Hey guys, Josh McKinney here. Just wanted to interrupt this episode and mention to you guys an amazing deal that I have, and it's exclusive for I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show listeners. So BJJ Mental Models has a coaching tier. Their premium website has a coaching tier, and how it works is you are able to upload a video of yourself doing jiu-jitsu in the gym, at a tournament, at a super fight, and you are able to have that match reviewed by one of the high-level coaches on the BJJ Mental Models coaching team. There are, last I checked, 20 world championship medals on that coaching team right now. And maybe you don't care about world championship medals. Maybe you would rather just, get your match reviewed by somebody really funny and lovable like Josh McKinney. Well, that's an opportunity too. You can ask specifically for myself or any of the really amazing coaches that they have on the BJJ Mental Models Premium Coaching Team. And the cool offer is you can get half off your first month by using promo code Josh. There's a link in the description. It'll show you all the tiers for BJJ Mental Models Premium, but you can get half off of any of them using promo code Josh at checkout. That's all I have for you. Let's get back to the episode. And we're back.
Oh, yeah. Much better.
Much better. Got any funny stories?
From the Hit Squad?
Yeah, any funny Hit Squad stories? Anything that you've been thinking about in prep for this?
Yeah,
Anything to work into the conversation?
I mean, so I can't remember. So I've got a couple.
Okay.
I can't remember if on a previous episode, the one that I always have to talk about that one, but I just don't remember if we discussed the one about when the guys got in the fight in the back of my car. I feel like we talked about this before.
You've been on quite a few times. I don't remember, and the show's grown. It's time to reiterate. It's time to reiterate
this story,
and why it happened, and the paint us the picture.
Okay, I have a couple of other just follow up randoms, but I mean, in prep for this, I was looking back through some old pictures. I'm gonna tell two. I'll tell one smaller one that just paints a picture of the dorms.
Okay.
And then the best story of all time.
Okay.
So I found this picture of. Do you remember there was a guy from Germany, and literally I think we say this because it was his last name. His last name was Tits. You remember?
I do.
Okay. So his legitimate last name was Tits. It was Titz. So of course that's what he was called. And
the nicknames were rampant at the Hit Squad, man.
Yes. But that was his real name, and Tess was hilarious. Really, he was anytime something funny would happen, he would say, "Great success, great success." He put his hands up. Well, anyways, somebody had brought a stun gun into the dorms with the prongs and everything, and I can't remember now that I think about it. I can't remember if it was Marcus Penland, if he did it to somebody or somebody did it to him. Either way, they hit somebody's tongue with a stun gun, knocked him out completely in the kitchen. And I just remember, and I have a picture of this, of Tits going like this with his hands up, and because this dude got knocked out with a stun gun, and he's like, "Great success," and I'm like, man, it just that's the kind of shit that went down
all the time,
just knocking people out with stun guns, things like that. But okay, so I'm gonna tell a story. This is one of my favorite Squad stories, but it's almost unbelievable. I only know parts of it because I don't really drink too much anymore. But this night was not one of those nights. I drank quite a bit. So we went out. We had a good time. I drove there, but I had a DD drive us back, and so I'm in the passenger seat, and I'm kind of fading in and out. Well, there's three guys. I can barely tell the story. There's three guys in the back seat. Okay. One guy, I don't even remember his name. Okay, there was just random people in the dorms all the time. But there's a guy, Jeremy Langley. He just went by Langley. And then there's a guy named Kelly. And for some reason, Kelly and Jeremy get in a literal fist fight in the backseat with a third person in there about who is the better Greco-Roman wrestler between the two of them. Okay, so they get into a fight in my car. Over another person's body, so they're fighting, and I'm not.
So lying. They're on the outside.
I'm not even lying. No, I think they might have been. I think they might have been together, and the other guy was kind of.
So this was the first car jitsu match ever.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty wild. Okay, and I'm not even exaggerating a little bit when I say that I can't remember which one did it. I think it was Langley tried, but one of them literally is trying to triangle the other one in the back seat with a third person back there. And this is like a Hyundai Sonata, right? It's a Hyundai Sonata. Okay, so I'm fading in and out, and I'm like, "What are you guys doing back there?" Kind of passing out a little bit. Anyways, we get back to the dorms, and they continue this fight outside of the car, and we're in front of the dorms, and one of them knocks the other one out cold, just knocks them out cold. Okay. And I can't remember which one's which. But then we go inside. I go and pass out, but then I see and hear all the stories the next day. Like I'm not exaggerating when I say I came out in the hallway and on both sides of the walls there was blood smears down the dorm walls. And so I find out, talking to everybody else, I guess whoever got knocked out, I think Kelly got knocked out. But then he came upstairs and Langley is on the toilet shitting, and he just mid shit pulls him off the toilet, and they continue fighting. Okay. And so they're fighting.
The triangle is much more dangerous now.
Oh my gosh. So I remember they fell into Mario, the German. You don't remember Mario Stabel?
Yeah, I remember.
They fell into his room, and Mario drags them out while one of them's on the other one's back, like trying to choke him out. I mean, these guys are just beating the shit out of each other, and they say this goes on for like 3 hours, like where like they would have to stop and like recuperate, and then they would fight again.
Let's eat a snack.
Just remember that this is over who is the better Greco-Roman wrestler
instead of just Greco-Roman wrestling.
Yes. So they both go to the emergency room and have to get stitches and staples. Both of them. They both got so fucked up, like just like stitches and staples. I mean, it was crazy. So there's blood smears on the wall. But here's the thing that pisses me off. I wake up, I go down, and the back of my Hyundai Sonata is covered in blood and puke. So I guess when they're fighting, one of them throws up. So there's blood and puke, and it's not just like on the seat. Like it is smeared across the ceiling. And so I'm furious. I'm like, you guys are going to pay for this, like to get it cleaned. One of them did pay me money, and the other one did not. I don't remember which one was which. But needless to say, a 3-hour.
These two seem to just be the same person in your mind.
Yes, well, because I can't. Well, because I was kind of fading in and out, and I I don't. Sometimes when things happen so long ago, you blend what you actually saw with what people told you.
Yeah.
But I do have a picture somewhere. I wish I would have pulled it up. I do have a picture of what they looked like afterwards.
I've seen that.
Oh my gosh, it's so.
They're
horrible.
hugging. They're hugging in the picture, bleeding everywhere.
They're bros at the end.
Yep.
They're
fighting for underhooks.
But that's the question, though. That's probably the most important thing is we never did find out who is the actual better Greco-Roman wrestler. You know what I mean? So anyway, that story is wild. My car, when I eventually sold it, probably still had stains.
And for more context, this was MMA fighter Kyle days. There were not leather seats in that car.
No,
those were cloth seats, just soaking it for days. It was funny. It was very much like, I remember back then, like a TV show from New York where like one of your friends has a car. And then everyone's like, hey, man, can I use your car this weekend? Can I use your car Thursday? That was how it was for you because nobody else, they only had to make the walk to the gym. But they were like, man, I need groceries.
I kind of felt like I was like the den mom, too. Like I felt like I needed to take care of some of the new fighters. And that actually came back to help out a lot down the road when some people don't know this, but the owner of Cage Warriors, like the show that Conor McGregor came from, there's the guy Graham Boylan. Most people knew him or called him Gray. He came and stayed in the dorms, and he I made sure he felt really welcome. I took him to the grocery store. And I just remember after the fact when the UFC cut me, he signed me to Cage Warriors. And actually, one time I went and visited, I taught a seminar in London, and him and I went and had lunch together and talked. And he just said he always remembered that he was just visiting and I didn't know him from anyone, but I made sure that, hey, I was going to, hey, you need anything? I'll take you to get groceries, whatever, and I took care of people in the dorms that way. But then it came back to like, okay, he's a big deal, owned multiple gyms in London, CEO, or maybe not the direct owner, but like the head of Cage Warriors. And then, and then gave me a fight contract after the UFC cut me. So that it was weird how that kind of came full circle, you know what I mean? Because I didn't know who he was. I'm just like, hey, anybody in the dorms jump in my Hyundai Sonata.
Yep.
Let's go to the QT and get some low carb monsters.
I don't think we should go video, but I think we should do a shout out of the YouTube video that you and I just watched and prep for this. I believe the YouTuber is Pulveris, something like that. I think his name is Dave.
Okay.
But he, shot a vlog 15 years ago before there were vlogs. He uploaded it to YouTube. He went from England to the Hit Squad. I don't even think he trained at all. I think he was just kind of like a journalist. And he stayed at the Econ Lodge in Granite City. If you know Granite City, I'll give you more descriptions. He stayed on St. Charles Rock Road. He stayed by the Waffle House, the Econ Lodge, I believe. I could be wrong, but I know there's one hotel in that area that you can pay by the hour. And that it probably was the Econ Lodge, but he had a rough stay. He said, his video said that because of the smell of raw sewage, he had to change rooms in the middle of the night. He said he would not be visiting that part of Granite City ever again, but he did admire the beauty of Granite City. He was there, not that part. When he got out of that part, he came to the Hit Squad. He came, looked at the dorms, he talked to everybody, met everybody. But just like the fact that that was a place that a dude from England who didn't train.
Well, I feel like I would have to know your points of reference. Like if you never came to the U.S. and saw any other part, and you're like, you came to Granite City, and you're like, oh, this part's beautiful. It's just like, I don't know, what's your frame of reference?
I don't know, man. Chris Paynes is such a big GC guy. It could be that English people, for whatever reason, like Granite City is like their version of an unoppressed England. Like, I don't know, like these people are free to do whatever they want. Look at that guy doing drugs on the side of the road. Like look at that lady.
Look at that guy asleep in a shopping cart.
Yeah, exactly. And like there's so much freedom here.
Yeah.
America.
Wow.
And it's also, I think there's a level of, and this is a St. Louis thing too. There is a lot of openness to our area in a sense that like when you go to most places, they have a lot more people,
Yeah, a little more congested.
Yeah. And so it's just a lot more, even, the sky is pretty open when you walk out in Granite because there's no trees. Everything's cut down, and it's all 1-story buildings.
Yeah.
And so, there's just, I don't know, something to it that only the English seem to be able to appreciate. So any other random Hit Squad stories that you thought were?
Well, I also like the fact that, do you remember later on, a few years in, we would always go like Fury would make it a point to get multiple fighters on the same card so we could go as a team. And it was pretty awesome. And I remember a lot of different ones, but the guys got a Hit Squad short bus. Do you remember that? They got a short bus, and then they would occasionally put a keg in the back, and then they would drive this short bus to fight. So it was like the Hit Squad short bus. I remember that one being entertaining. I'm trying to think what else. Something will come to me.
Oh, I'm sure. So I was looking online. It was the facility size. They claimed 5,000 square feet of mat, 3,000 of hammer strength, brand new hammer strength weightlifting equipment, 1,000 of cardio equipment, and then a full boxing ring. And I'm pretty sure that those numbers were pretty close to accurate. That was a mat space, right? It was 5,000.
Yeah, that's what they said. Yeah.
And that's insane.
Yeah. And it had a large sauna, like one that fit 10, 12 people. Then they also had, cold plunge.
They had really nice showers. They had a really nice tile, huge shower room, basically.
Didn't they towards later on, they swapped out the ring for a smaller cage?
I thought that they put them side by side.
Oh, that could be.
I thought.
Oh, yeah, you're right. I remember now. Yes, you're right. They did have them side by side.
And so, I thought that was, which was also a cool, and the 5,000 square feet of mats had however many 100 feet of fence to work the wall stuff on. And it was just the over the top facility.
Yeah, it was wild. But that also brings back the memories of just the brutal work workouts. I mean, that was one thing that Fiore was pretty devious on, was the designing like just terrible workouts that just were just exhausting. Like I remember the one like I hated probably the most was we go outside and we do like there was like just big chunks of concrete in the parking lot for some reason. We would do these like throws behind our back. We would sprint to like a bar with plates on it and do a bunch of real quick deadlifts. And then we'd like run out to this like hill on the golf course. And then we'd run back and then do the ceiling was like 24 feet and there was ropes and we'd climb the ropes all the way to the ceiling. It was just like workouts like that was insane. Or when we went to the golf course, we'd have to do like all these partner carries up a hill. So you'd have to carry them on your back, carry them fireman style, like cradle style. And then after you run up with a partner like on your back and run back down, then you'd have to do like wrestling, like drills, like pummeling, like out in the grass. Like, oh man, it was brutal.
And then doing that stuff every day.
Yeah.
That's a lot.
Yeah. I was just, I always feel bad sometimes because I have some of my coaches, they'll go straight from like a hard, like advanced class and they'll teach. And that reminds me, I see them like kind of huffing and puffing and getting their gi on and stuff like that, or still have their gi on, but wiping sweat. And I remember how tough that was, where I'd go straight from pro practice. Like I just got done sparring with 18-ounce gloves or whatever. And then throw my gi on, like, oh, time to teach a bunch of people.
In your second practice of the day.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. And that is brutal. People don't understand the mental exhaustion that comes from teaching a jiu-jitsu class well.
Yes.
You know?
Yes.
And people don't like the actual engagement to get people hopefully to learn something or to get better at jiu-jitsu. Yeah. That takes a surprising amount of energy. Anytime one of my students gets the opportunity to like teach a seminar, especially, but even just teach a class, they will always comment that and be like, man, I got pretty, I fell asleep for 12 hours after that.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, that it's just exhausting.
Yeah. I always think that too, is like, man, like when I talk to people, and it's like that in the beginning when you first open a gym, you're teaching like every class. But like when I talk to someone who, might teach privates in the morning and then come back and teach 3 to 4 classes at night, I'm like, God, how do you do that? Like, cause I feel like I bring a lot of energy to the table in my classes, like always like trying to stay really upbeat and joking around and pacing so I can see everybody and make sure I like put my hands on everybody in the room. And like, man, if I do usually 2 classes is good for me. I'm pretty toast. If I do 3, I used to do 3 like each night, and I just started feeling like, man, by the 3rd class I was toast, And so are those people that do, privates and then 3-4 hours of teaching, like I don't know how they do it, or maybe they just don't bring the same energy. I don't know, but
I feel like I'm really good at sprinting for a period as a coach, like doing a lot in a short period of time. That's like what I'm best at. If you start to make me stretch the time and they're like, hey, I want Josh to do a seminar. We're going to, he has so much knowledge. We're going to give him 3 hours. We're going to give him 4 hours. Brother, if I can't say it in 90 minutes, I can't say it. I'm just going to keep repeating it at this point. I don't know it any better than I've said it in probably the first 15 minutes, you know, but I'll just keep reiterating I'll just keep hitting those first 15 minutes over and over. But it's like, I've boiled this down a lot to where we don't need to be here for 3 hours. Not you guys, and definitely not me, You
can just do it like Coach Jared for Tag Team does, where he finds somebody to pick on the whole seminar, and he can usually kill about 15 minutes of it just picking on that one person.
He's really good at that. But here's what he's actually really good at. He's always, I guarantee any seminar he's ever been to, you get the comment from the school owner, how did you know to pick on that guy?
Yes.
How did you know it was the guy that, one, can take it, because that's always important, but 2, deserves it.
Yeah.
Listen. That
is a skill.
When he came to Revive, and maybe, I think this the new Revive. I think that was the reason he came. And it was his first time meeting Jeff. Okay? So me and Jared are standing on the side of the mat, or standing on the mat, and Jeff starts to walk onto the mat. And he looks over and he goes, hey, you, come here. And so Jeff runs over, and Jeff's trying to fake him out, be polite, Jeff.
Yeah.
Hi, sir. It's great to see you. It's nice. So nice to meet you. I'm so happy to meet you, totally being Jeff. And he's like, hey, man, calm down. And then he looks at all of the black belts and he goes, which one of these guys is your coach? And I'm like, oh, no. And he goes, Josh McKinney. Josh is my coach. And he goes, yeah. You go stand over there next to Josh. We're 30 minutes before anything started. That was his first interaction. A little bit later, we're talking, and he tells me something along the lines of, he's given me the leadership talk, and he's like, yeah, you gotta mentor people. He's like, that's what this is about. He's like, because you got, that kid over there, your kid right there. He's a day from doing meth, dude. And I'm like, how did he read that so quick?
Yeah.
How did he know? Jeff hadn't said a word.
Yeah.
He knew by demeanor, and then maybe he saw the head nod patch on the gi.
Yeah.
It's just the walk.
The mannerisms.
Yeah. He was like, got to get this kid. We got to get on this kid. I just know it. And that's an unbelievable skill of doing that.
That's funny. Yeah. I don't know why I just thought of Jared there, but yeah.
That was the, I think it's just that. Do you feel like you have any seminar skills? Any secret, anything that differentiates? Like, do you feel like we said with Jared, he has that ability to see things and make fun of people in a way that's very special?
Sure.
Do you have, when you're preparing a seminar or when you're doing a seminar, do you feel like there's something that differentiates a Kyle seminar from like most people or almost everybody or everybody?
Well, maybe not different than everybody, but I do feel like I'm able to make people at ease really fast and then make them laugh quite a bit. Like I feel like now I don't feel like every seminar I do, I like knock it out of the park. There's times where I'm like, I probably should have done that a little different, or maybe I should have added this or took this out or whatever. But I feel like especially the last like kind of wave of ones that I've done, I felt like, there was just such a good energy. I got people laughing, got them really just interested, involved in what we were doing, but also making it so it's not so serious where it's like everything's got to be about like, oh, we got to be badass jiu-jitsu practitioners, that we can just really just enjoy the art and just have a good time. But I feel like, not that that's something special that other people don't do that, but I just feel like out of the things that I feel like go well in one of my seminars, I just feel like I make people really at ease and I feel like when people are having a good time, they're way more, it's easier to accept knowledge. You know what I mean? When you're like, you put everybody at ease and they're not like, everything's so tense and like, and kind of awkward,
Mm-hmm. Do you ever think about like doing more seminars? Because I'm sure you could. If you wanted to. I'm sure that there are a lot of people, because like when you do them, they typically are pretty big, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that would, especially if you were like, hey guys, I'm teaching seminars, book me. Book me. I only have a few spots left, book me. If you did that, I only have 10 spots left to book seminars in 2025. You could. Do you ever think about that, or is that not something that?
I guess I'll say it like this. I really enjoy them. So anytime I have the opportunity, I really enjoy them. But I don't go out listen, I respect the hustle. So for people that are out there that want to teach seminars and they're out there like, I'm available, I want to do this, whatever, more power to them. I don't, I definitely appreciate the hustle. I just I'm really busy, and I've just been really these last couple of years been so like focused and into just creating more family time that do I have the time to do more seminars? And if someone asked me, would I? Yes. I mean, I really do enjoy it. I love doing them, but I'm at this point where like, I'm not worried about putting myself out there to try to sell myself. Like if I do them, awesome. If I don't do them, then that just gives me more family time. That's kind of how I look at it. So it's like, if someone was like, wondered if I was available to do them, yes, I can do them, but I'm not just like hustling to try to sell myself or be like, if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. I think people don't understand that a seminar is like, I guess the best way to say is like a seminar is its own thing. Um, it's not a jujitsu class, and it's not like for the instructor, for the people coming, it's not a jujitsu class. It's something different. Generally, for the instructor, you have to travel. Some people, that's part of why they like it.
Yeah.
You know, they're like, oh, I love seeing the world. I love doing this jujitsu. A lot of people look at like jujitsu as this physical vehicle that can take you wherever you want to go if you get good enough at it, right? And so I'm in the same boat of like, yeah, I totally respect that. I totally get that. But to me, it is still work.
Yeah.
It's not as that it's not fun. Every bit of work that I get to do is pretty fun.
Yeah.
But it is still not, it's not like I really do think that I would be a jiu-jitsu coach if if someone said, okay, money is no longer a object for you. What are you going to do? I would train and teach jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
But it's just something different about like, a lot of times you go to a seminar and they suck.
Yeah.
Right? And it's
Yeah.
like and most people are still okay with that. Most people are willing to pay for the experience because they're like, well, I'm going to get a picture with whatever, big name, with Gordon Ryan, with Bryce Allen, whoever they're getting a picture with. But when you think about that and you go like, okay, but does it make you better at jiu-jitsu? Usually not. Usually going to the coach that you have that's a really good coach that can see the little things that, on this big formula that they've been helping you solve for years.
Sure.
Going and hanging out with them for an hour and learning from them, doing a private with your coach would probably be better most of the time. Yeah. And that is always, to me, is like that other side of it is, I don't want to teach a seminar if it's not going to actually make you better at jiu-jitsu. I don't care. I would love if the podcast was big enough that people were like, oh, I don't care if I get good by this.
Yeah.
I can just show up and I get to take a picture with Josh. That would be awesome. But I just don't care about that. Yeah. I want people to leave and be like going to Chicago and people from Mark's coming up like 4 or 5 years later I taught a random Thursday noon class at Mark's and taught chest over chest. And I bet you I showed 2 actual moves, but I just showed the idea. And I have 4 or 5 people from his gym come up over the weekend and be like, hey, I still think about that class. They said seminar you taught. And I'm like, you guys know that was a Thursday class. You know, that was free, right? Like, you guys didn't pay for that, right? Like, that was just I was just in town.
Yeah.
But that to me is like the fun part of seminars. But it's just, I hate the part of it that's like, sometimes you go in, you have something really great to show, and you're like, man, this is not what this group needs.
Yeah.
And I could try to show something fancy and cool, but this group needs to go a step back, right? And
well, no, I agree completely. I've been to so many seminars too, and some just amazing, and some really suck. And I get what you're saying, and I think like everybody that teach them, they obviously have good intentions. I'm not acting like all the ones I teach are like amazing, but I think like you said, it's like sometimes people will just bring what they think will wow the people, or they'll just bring like a bunch of unrelated moves that like, this is cool. Have you seen this? This is cool. Have you seen this? And so I look at it anymore. That's why I've been on this kick lately. Is like, and that most recent instructional that I shot, like I've been on this kick of like, in the last few seminars I taught, I do like a section of like, okay, this is what I call the make it your own section, meaning that like, okay, here's all the content that I think is really important, and this is the new thing I want you to learn and do, but this is how you're going to make this your own and how to connect it to your own game. Because I think like a lot of times we don't know everybody there and what their skill set is, so they just really have no way to connect that new material to what they're already good at. So I try to include a make it your own section. So like, this is how, I don't care if you're only good at this guard or you're only good at this takedown or you're only good at this pass, you can still take this material and this is how you would connect it to your own game. I think that's really important. And then I also think looking at it like when you teach a seminar is looking at it like like it's an experience. Like you said, it's like some people are there for different reasons. Some people just want to hang out and like be around people. So like trying to make it fun, make it experience, make it memorable. And like you said too, I think that's always important. That's one of the best compliments you can get. It's like I teach that at a JW's float trip camp every year. And it's so awesome when I come back the following year and they're like bringing up that, hey, what you taught last year, I'm still using it. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's super impactful. But yeah, I think seminars are awesome, and I try to like take them really serious, because if somebody's going to spend their hard-earned money to come and spend 2 or 3 hours with me, I want them to leave feeling like if I did another one, they would come back, and then also that they felt like the money was well spent.
And yeah, I think about it the same way, like as an experience. I think of when we do an instructional, it's ideally the finished thought. I mean, there's no finished thought, but it's ideally the finished work. I'm going to put a pin in this, and that's what this instructional is. But when you do a seminar, it's the live show. And it's like, hey, the one thing that this has that any instructional I make cannot have is the fact that you guys are here and you can talk to me and I can talk to you, and the seminar can kind of change as it goes into like, oh, there's this big hole in what I'm trying to explain. These guys want to know about this part of it.
Sure.
And being able to do that live, and you can only really do that live. You can only really do that in person.
Sure.
Do you have any favorite seminars you've ever been to?
I mean, I'm trying to think off the top of my head if there was like one that was like the one,
or even a person that just every time they've done.
Well, that's easy. It's all I always like get a ton out of Sean Williams.
No doubt.
Like,
totally agree.
Yeah, I was gonna say him anyway, but I was trying to think if there was just one particular time. But I think in general, I always feel like from him, like I always tell people when I'm teaching a seminar, it's like I want you to at least get like one thing out of this. I want there to be at least like one light bulb moment. And that's the nice thing about even as a 24-year jiu-jitsu practitioner, like I still always get at least a light bulb or two every time I'm in front of Sean.
I totally agree. Every time he goes, he's very good at the timing and the amount that he rants about things that aren't technique.
Yeah.
Because you don't want to do that too much, because it's like, but what did I learn?
Yeah.
Right. But I remember the first time he ever came, I believe it was the first time he ever came to your gym. He taught Williams guard and he taught omoplatas, but then he talked about, I was a purple belt, and he was talking about rolling without strength. And that was the first time I'd really heard that idea. And he talked about Hodger Gracie doing it, and that was what Hodger Gracie credited to having having purple belts as training partners and winning World's Open class. And that one is, to me, always stands out in my mind as like one of the biggest, but he always has taught very good seminars.
Sure.
Chris Payne's always one of my favorites.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Always teaches really good seminars. I've only been to one of Henry Aiken's seminars. That was really good. That was one of my favorites. Who else has been really... Okay, this is biased. You know who teaches a good seminar that isn't sitting at this table? Because we both teach freaking great seminars. But you know who else teaches a great seminar? Nick Sanders.
Oh, yeah.
Nick Sanders teaches very good seminars. Me and him did the Stronghold, Wisconsin camp like a year and a half ago. Mark was there too. And I've taught with Mark before. So like but it's really one of my first times I feel like I've taught with Nick. And all the stuff that he taught was like, oh yeah, this happens. And then he's like, and then the guy's going to step here. And I'm like, is he just showing our rounds? Or is this like, does he do this to everybody, or is he just showing the stuff that happens with us? Like that's where I step, And so, yeah, he's very, very good seminar.
That's cool. Yeah. And I think it comes with experience too. Not to say that you just, you teach seminars forever and all of a sudden you're magically good at it. But I think it definitely helps like when you can, read the room quickly and, be able to diagnose like kind of like how what you're showing can kind of fit the room, And I think you can only be good at that by doing more more seminars, you know. In the beginning, it's like, you know, it's not nearly, it's a little more like rigid where you're like, I'm just going to show this in this exact order versus being able to like adapt on the fly, you know.
Here's a hot take for you about seminars.
Let's do it.
The best seminars, and this is as somebody selling a seminar too, only have 20 people.
Yeah. I believe that.
Anymore, and it starts to be too much. It's hard to have a group bigger than that. And honestly, 20 is even a lot. I even think my favorite are 14 to 16. It's enough that you're going to get questions for sure. And then if you really get on something good, you'll probably get a ton of questions. And it's not so big that people feel awkward about asking questions. And it's not so big that you have two dumb question askers and then no one gets any good questions answered.
Yeah.
You know,
That makes sense.
And so I think that is, if I was really into the seminar thing and I was trying to recreate it and do it how it should be done, I really think you should sell your seminars not as a, let's pack this house with 400 people to come see me. And like,
You're like,
let's
limited edition, Josh.
limited edition, but obviously at a higher price point.
Yes.
Like, let's not confuse ourselves. And then I'll get a slogan from Kyle. So if I was going to do the I suck at
I need more
jiu-jitsu-
caffeine for this.
Okay, crack it
I'm just
open.
kidding.
If I was going to do the I suck at jiu-jitsu show seminar tour, what would be the catchphrase for the seminar? What would be the tagline? And I'll give you some descriptors of maybe with the seminar. No. Let's not do the seminar tour because that's totally hypothetical. I never want to leave my house. But I never want to leave Granite City. But on that note, the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show experience. Bryce, has the Rob episode come out yet? No. Well, I won't tell you what. I'll just tell you. So this is the deal.
I got it. So like, kind of like, wasn't this the slogan for? Do you remember the Cars micro machines?
No. Cars?
Yeah, like the little toy
Micro machines. I do not.
You should, Bryce, look it up. Micro machines.
Yeah, and pull up a pic. Go Google images.
And I'm pretty sure this was the tagline. It was something like, just like the just like the real thing, only smaller. I'm pretty sure that was it. No, and the reason why is because just like a big seminar, only smaller. You know what I mean? You want look it up. Is that the tagline?
Is that it?
Yeah, those are micro machines.
But
look up.
Can you zoom in,
no,
bro?
click on videos. Or will you get in trouble for that?
As long as we don't blast the audio.
No, here. Look up micro machine tagline or micro machine motto. I'm pretty sure that's what it is. Just like the real thing, only smaller.
Just like the real thing, only smaller.
Yeah.
That's such a good tagline.
Yeah.
Okay, if I did the micro seminar tour, that is, oh my gosh, that is hilarious. That's
If it doesn't say micro machines, it's not the real thing.
if it doesn't say micro.
No, that's not it, man. I was around during this time. That's not it. And the guy talks really fast. That's his thing. Like, he talks super, super fast.
I don't know, Kyle. I think that you were just.
We're gonna prove this after this.
Okay. Sounds good. I'm sure somebody that listens to the show is a huge Micro Machines fan, and they're screaming at their radio.
They're mad, right? They're like, Kyle's right. Kyle is right.
No, it's Bryce. Bryce is right. Yeah, we're gonna get demonetized for this one, aren't we? There's no music.
So old. It's so old. That
Genius.
Can you even get in trouble for that?
Yeah, no way. Look, can you put it up on our screen then, Bryce? Or are you just gonna watch it? So unlike
He's trying to like see.
Holy smokes, he is talking fast. Holy smokes. So this would be my commercial.
No, I swear that's not the tagline. All right, well, I think you should look up where that tagline is because I really feel
here
like,
we go.
I really feel like that's the tagline. Is just like the real thing, only smaller. Look that up.
Just like the real thing, only smaller.
Wait, it's probably pulling up something else.
It's just a bunch of pictures of Kyle Watson on it. I don't know what's up with that.
Dang.
That was rough.
That was a rough one.
Okay. Weekend freedom machines, just like the real thing, only smaller.
Okay, how about this? Okay, maybe I was wrong about that, but let's just agree that was a good tagline.
I think that was an excellent tagline, but that wasn't, again, that was those seminars I'm not going to do. I don't want to go out, but this is the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show experience. Okay. So this is how my student Rob sells it to me because he's been pushing me to do it.
Okay.
He says, live a weekend like Josh McKinney.
Ooh.
Which most people couldn't survive a weekend like Josh
Right.
McKinney. That's too irresponsible. But the jiu-jitsu part of it, it's not a bad idea.
Yeah.
So how it would work is it would be like a weekend camp, Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay.
First night, you maybe have a 1 hour seminar, some type of training. Then there's food after you go out to eat. You do something like that. Day 2, you wake up, you drink I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show, Revive Coffee, shout out Revive Coffee. And, you know, maybe, who knows, maybe Imposed Will has a merch stand you can look at. Maybe, you know, we feature some St. Louis style things.
Sure.
And you get to do a weightlifting seminar with Steve McKinney. Ooh. And, you know, that's your start of your day. And then you go into, you know, and these are going to be, when I'm thinking about seminars, I'm thinking like local people, more like showcasing what we have and less about like, oh, we're going to bring people in for these seminars. And then maybe do like a seminar and then have food trucks, right? And then, I don't know, because you do another seminar, are you going to do food trucks? Should we do live rolling and then food trucks? Who knows? Haven't worked out the details, but it's a whole experience. Then, this is my idea. This is probably a bad idea, okay? I ran this by Bryce, and he's like, bro, that's dope. And anytime he says something like that, bad idea. So the idea is that we do some type of in the gym on Saturday night, or I would think in the gym, that would make the most sense. Live super fight show. Ooh. 7 matches, something like that. 14 competitors. You can bring them from other places. They don't have to be people involved with the event, but they can just come in to be the jiu-jitsu entertainment. Mm-hmm. Then the next day you have your whatever seminar, your open mat training to finish. Everybody heads home. So the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show experience will just, it would just be sponsor city. It would just be so many free giveaways, so many great things. But if you were selling that, what would the tagline be?
Oh, man. Think about this for a second.
It's the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show experience. You're experiencing, this in person, not this actually. Technically the one thing you wouldn't see in person would be maybe we could do a studio tour or something, but you wouldn't see us live doing
the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show experience. That's what you're saying. But what would be the tagline? Yeah. What would be the slogan? How are we going to bring people in? What tells them in one sentence everything they need to know and more? 2 nights. 2 nights with Josh McKinney. That's good. I like that. No. Are they all sexual? Sorry. Yeah. No, I did think about this unrelated to thinking up taglines. I don't even know if this would be exciting at all. I just thought about it. I don't even know why I was thinking about it. But what if, because you know how like. That was a strong segue, Kyle. Yeah, no, it's still related. You really undersold this. It's still related to like the super fight thing. But like, you know how like, I don't know, people just like to see anything violent, like the power slap thing, what have you. But what if, just to put a different spin Shout out Colton Cole. Yeah, I know. Shout out Colton Cole. Yeah, also another one from also Hit Squad guy. Yeah, for sure. What if you did a tournament, like it's like super fights, right? And you made the matchups. And so it was always already agreed upon this person versus this person. But then they draw, like at the show, they draw like out of a hat whether you're going to do gi, no gi, or MMA. Holy smokes. So you'd have to be ready. you'd have to be ready for all three, or like combat jujitsu. You know what I mean? So like,
That's
say like I'm
cool.
gonna fight you, and I just have to be ready for any of those options.
I
What do you think
like
about
that.
that?
I like that. I really like that.
I don't know. I just thought
Yeah, I think like a really good call out if you were really good at jiu-jitsu and you went and beat big name guys, if you were the type of guy that trained gi and no gi, I really think calling out a big name that specializes in one and then really hit the like, well, we'll see who the best grappler is, compete with me back to back gi and no gi, right? I think you could really push that narrative, and I really think if you were the next Gordon Ryan skill wise, you could push this narrative that anybody who can't beat you in both sucks, right? And you could push this narrative that it's all about being the most well-rounded grappler. And I think you could play the baby face and do that.
that'd be pretty cool.
Hey guys, Josh here. Just wanted to interrupt this episode 300, and ask you guys something that I've asked you guys 299 times. Can you please, for the love of God, give me a 5-star review? Give me a like, give me a subscribe. Anything from the bottom of your heart, but something that I would love is if you're watching on Spotify or YouTube, you can comment. If you guys have ever seen Kyle Watson, he has a really fun thing that he does, a very fun victory dance that he does, and it involves the finger guns. And so be sure, if you can comment, let us know that you're listening to this episode by commenting finger guns. Don't comment the real gun. We're not trying to hurt people. You don't pull out a real emoji gun and start threatening people and be like, you better sign up you better give me a 5-star review on my podcast. You don't do that. That's really, really aggressive. But honestly, you better give me a 5-star review and a share on this podcast. What more can I do? 300 episodes. What more can I do? I'll ask again at episode 301. Let's get back to the episode. Tell me about the grand opening of the Hit Squad.
So, it's crazy because I don't remember a lot about it. And like I said before, I remember being just kind of awestruck, seeing the place and being like, wow, this is going to be my job. Like just being so excited. And, I'd already met Hughes and chatted with, a bunch of the people and there wasn't a ton of people. I don't remember a lot of people being at the grand opening, but I do remember, Robbie was like working out and, he was like over, like, I don't know if he's just testing the machines or whatever. And I remember I went over and introduced myself. And I just, at that moment, all sticks in my head about like how underwhelmed he was with meeting me. He was very like, I was like, hey man, what's up? My name's Kyle. I'm going to be the new jiu-jitsu coach. And he's like, cool. And then just like kept working out. Like, I don't even remember if he shook my hand, fist bumped me or what, but it just seemed like he was very like disinterested, like didn't care, which is fine. But I also realized that about Robbie after I got to know him. It's like, yeah, he's like, you almost like, yeah, I didn't have enough street cred. It's like, you gotta like, kind of earn his respect.
You got to get to know him.
Yeah. And it was just funny because I was only then like fast forward maybe just like a couple weeks we're there and I still don't know him very well at all. And I was having a problem with I think my knee or something. I can't remember. I had something was bothering me. And Robbie's like, hey, I've got this chiropractor I go to that's all the way in the Quad Cities. And he's like, he goes, man, he's like, if you ride with me up to see him, he goes, I'll have him look at you too, free. And I'm like, that's an odd offer, but yeah, sure. I'll take you up on that. But it was like, I didn't know Robbie at all. And most of the 4-hour plus drive was dead silence. And so it was like super weird. But then it was like, once I finally like kind of got him talking, then the way back was totally opposite. We were talking or whatever. And I feel like that trip was enough to like kind of earn his respect. And he was cool with me from then on. We were cool and he would actually chat me up and stuff. And, we were good training partners. But up until then, it was just like, yeah, like, I don't know you, man.
And he really was a unique, but a really cool person.
Yeah, he was.
I again, as a 15-year-old kid, he was one of the people that was really nice to me.
Yeah.
And didn't need to be. He was a he was a big name fighter and I was nobody, and he was just always very, very kind. He would talk to us, me, Kitchler, all the other kids that were just standing around the front desk causing trouble. And, he would talk to us about playing Madden and about, us learning to drive and running over stuff, he was just always tell us inappropriate jokes. He was always just a really, really cool guy. I always really liked him.
For sure.
But man, he could throw a dodgeball.
Yeah.
1,000 miles an hour.
Absolutely.
There's an article, if you start trying to search for like the Hit Squad or the Hit Squad notable fighters, an article from 2017 will pop up where Neil Magny says, it's like the one thing that he talks about at the Hit Squad is like, we played a lot of dodgeball. And then he said, sometimes we would play so much dodgeball that we would skip practice. And then they're like, well, what was notable about dodgeball? And he said, Robbie could throw those rubber balls so hard that sometimes they would pop. And he's like, he's a freak athlete and a fierce competitor.
Absolutely. Well, man, I used to tell people that all the time. And like, it sounds like a joke, but I feel like it's true. I say all the time that we played so much dodgeball that I thought that we were better at dodgeball than fighting. And I felt like,
and that's not to say you were bad fighters. No. You were just very, very good at dodgeball.
We played a lot of dodgeball and elbow tag. Well, on that, I want to divert just slightly. Do you remember some of the crazy games we played besides dodgeball? Elbow tag wasn't that crazy, but that was another weird one.
It was still a crazy game.
It was weird. I was telling my son about it the other day. I was like, hey, we used to play this game. Because I was asking what he plays in PE, like what games they do. And I was telling him about elbow tag. He goes, well, that sounds kind of fun. But I brought this up at my gym multiple times about some of the crazy games we did. Do you remember like where we picked teams and everybody wore their socks and it was just the first team to get the other team's socks off and you could like submit them and do things or whatever. But then the one that was more violent I felt was that tug of war game where excuse me, where they put like a rope out and they picked teams and we're on this is a fighter gym and we're doing these things. And we picked teams, we're on either side of the line, and you won if you pulled everybody from the other team across the line. But here's how the rules were that if you're on my team and they have you all the way across the line, but your teammate, like me, I still have a hold of your ankle, you're not over yet. But while they're pulling you across the line, they can apply submissions and they basically like fight while you're pulling.
All of the games were full contact.
Yeah, it was like very violent. But yeah, anyways, I don't know. We played some crazy stuff. But I do remember getting smoked multiple times by Robbie, like at point blank range.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So then for context too, it wasn't most of the time, it wasn't like what people think about as schoolyard dodgeball. There's a line in the middle, nobody can cross it, and you throw the ball.
Yeah.
It would be this game of dodgeball. There would be 2 balls, 3 balls, something like that. And every man for himself. There's no, once you grab the ball, you have a pivot foot, you can't take a step.
Yeah.
And you can, if you get hit, you're out.
Yeah.
So but the thing was, the only way to win was to get every single person out. Because if I hit you and you were out and you're sitting on the side and then somebody got me, you're back in. And so 10 people, you would get to the end and it would be like 1-on-1. All this guy needs to do is get this last guy out and the ball would get caught and then everybody's back.
Yeah.
And that's why you guys would skip practice.
Yes.
It was worth it, man. It was for me some of the most entertaining stuff of my life. We just sat on the sides and watched, like, I wonder if they're going to fight tonight or I wonder if they're going to play dodgeball. Either way, it's going to be mayhem.
Well, it was wild too because like some guys had like, fights coming up and it's like, and it'd just be the point where like, okay, they get to the point where, I don't remember how long practices were, like an hour and a half, whatever. And they'd be like 40 minutes into a dodgeball game. And they're like, oh, well, this is fun. Let's just keep going. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess we're not practicing tonight.
But at a point, everyone was so overtrained that it was probably one of those things like, hey, maybe a dodgeball night isn't the worst thing.
That's true.
Do
you remember, and this happened so many times, I don't know, because I don't know if you were ever there, like how much you were there in the mornings, but Hughes would always take us through, I think it was Monday morning practices. And he would always, like, kind of like we were talking about Jared's knack, Matt had a knack for picking out the weakest link right off the bat.
Oh, yeah.
And the problem is he knew, who could cut it and who couldn't right away. But so we'd have these people that would come in visiting, but they want to train with us, and he would count them, and he would be like, "Hey, man, if you don't," he wouldn't always announce it first, but it's basically if you didn't do the numbers, if he said, "Hey, you're doing, 15 box jumps and you do 14." Everyone has to start the workout over. And he did this all the time where he'd be like, "I'm counting someone." He goes, "Don't make me catch you." And then there'd always be somebody that isn't in good shape. And it wasn't that they were trying to cheat. It was just that they couldn't do it, and then everybody'd have to start over. It was kind of like with the buddy push-ups, like where you do the buddy push-ups and you go down. If anybody drops during the buddy push-ups, everybody had to start over. So, oh my gosh.
Yeah, that's those were brutal. They were, again, they were fun to watch.
Yeah. Well, that's why I'm falling apart now at 45, because probably from buddy push-ups.
You know what? But buddy push-ups make you better a fighter. They do. I'm pretty sure that I heard that once. Do you think? Do you think? Do you think if you could change any one thing about the Hit Squad, just one part of it, that it would still be running today?
No, I don't. I still think, when you do business, they're always like, you hear that cliche location.
Mm-hmm.
And I used to say that before, like when I was seeing it kind of failing, I was like, man, you could fire me, bring in 10 world champion black belts to teach here, and it isn't going to draw people. You know what I mean? It's like, it's just not a convenient place. It isn't like, have access to all the, sometimes you go to a gym, it might be close by to other things you do and utilize. It's not close to anything else. So it's just that one destination that you got to go to for this one reason that's out of the way. And then there definitely is, like, you'd have to really, even if you poured a ton of marketing into it and really made people know it was there, I don't think that would be enough to overcome, the location issue.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion.
Yeah, I think you're probably right too. That was why I had no interest in buying it the last time, because it sold, and then it operated, and would have different management. I think one other time, bunch of different coaches came through. It never really was what it was again. There was never dorms again. There were a lot of parts of it just weren't there. And where it was just such a unfortunate place to put the gym, especially when you think that to stay in existence, the gym has to make money.
Yeah.
Well,
I wondered too, I obviously wasn't privy to those conversations. I wondered, like, kind of ultimately why you went there. I heard that, one of the main backers financially was hoping to kind of revitalize that area. And that was, so it had good intentions with, like, hey, we bring this here and then maybe things will build up around it. And that just, did not happen.
So as you go and you get the news, like, and you kind of see the writing that, like, okay, it's time to leave. Are you still in the UFC at that time when the Hit Squad gets bought?
Let me think. No, I think I'd already been cut at that point.
Okay. And so, what's your thought process? Had you been cut at that point?
Yeah, actually, I'm not sure, because my last fight would have been.
It got bought March 23rd, 2011. That was when the article was released that the Hit Squad had gotten bought.
Oh, no, then, because I think I fought. Didn't I fight April of 11 was my last fight?
That sounds right.
I think it was April of 11. So maybe not. So yeah, because then my last fight was February of 12. So, and I was already gone at that point. So it was in between that time frame.
And so for you, you're still in the UFC, and I guess you would have, even if it got bought at that time, you probably still would have trained through the Hit Squad to finish out that fight.
Yeah.
But what did that feel like? What did that look like? You were kind of at a crossroads of life. this place that was there is no longer there. But then also on top of that, you could kind of go wherever. You could kind of go and, I know you had done camps at TriStar. You could keep pursuing MMA. But instead, you opened a jiu-jitsu school in St. Louis. What was that decision like?
It was super scary. I remember that being such a just rough spot. Not that, obviously I think there's the excitement of you have the opportunity to do a lot of things. But I'm one of those people that I like things being safe and secure and kind of just knowing, all my bases are covered, you know what I mean? And it was just one of those things. I was kind of mad at myself for not really setting up a plan B. Even though I had kind of seen the writing on the wall that the gym wasn't doing so hot, I still kind of lied to myself that this is awesome. I live in these fighter dorms. I'm teaching and training full time. This is the coolest lifestyle. So I think I just lied to myself. And
to be fair though, your jiu-jitsu program was doing well.
Yeah.
It was not a 10-person jiu-jitsu program. Yeah. You had a good amount of students, and I want to say that you were kind of in talks before it got bought of that if you were going to keep pursuing it, it was I'll either do my own thing or, you were kind of at that, you had that thought.
Yeah. No, you're right. No, I was planning. I just meant that I guess I just didn't want it. I wanted it to keep going and not fail so much that I just I just kind of I think I wouldn't say clouded my judgment, but I think I would have started that ball rolling earlier. You know what I mean? But yeah, I was once I got a taste of that, I was this is what I want to do. I can't see going back now. I don't want to go back and work in an office. I don't want to go back to wearing slacks every day. So I'm just I'm going to see if I can make this work. And again, back to those things, just moving parts. I don't know if you do remember my good friend, Chris Rappa, and he was telling me about, the lab gym, and he goes, hey man, and I don't remember who he was friends with at the time. But he just goes, he knew I was looking. I was man, I got to find something. I got to have a plan B. I got to have an exit strategy. And he's like, hey man, there's this 24-hour fitness place. And he goes, they have an upstairs that they're looking to rent out. And he got me in contact with them. And then, and then that worked out. And I opened up my first place. You guys all came with me. And then oddly enough, Trevor, who's one of my main coaches in black belts now, he was a trainer downstairs in the gym. He came up and started doing jiu-jitsu and went from white belt to black belt under me, and now he's one of my main coaches at the gym. So it's just wild ride,
It really is. And now you're you moved a couple blocks away. How long were you in that first space?
I think a couple years.
Yeah. And then you were in the second space for how long?
Probably same, about a couple years, because I'm thinking now I've been open 13. Well, I got to figure this out because I think I've been in the space now that I'm in for 7 out of the 13. So maybe a couple years at the first one, and then maybe 3 to 4 at the second one, maybe.
And then now you're at how many square feet of mats do you have?
About 5,000.
Now you're at a 10,000 square foot facility with 5,000 square feet of mat and doing the jiu-jitsu thing. Yeah. I mean, you've been doing the jiu-jitsu thing full time for a while, but even, just still growing with your gym, growing with how you run it as a business, just growing with all of that. But it's just, as we've said a million times on this episode, how crazy it is that all came from, one, it came from people going, we're going to take a chance on this Kyle Watson guy. And then from there, I mean, I remember, I know I've told this story before, but I remember my first class, and I don't know if you remember this, but they, it's a month into the gym being open, maybe even just 2 or 3 weeks, but they had called and Todd had been like, oh yeah, 14 years old, definitely bring him down. Let's try him out. And so I go and they're like, well, we'll see. We'll introduce you to Kyle and see if he thinks that, we haven't really discussed what the age range is for this class. And so, you walked up and we talked to you just for a second, like, yeah, this is Josh. He wants to try class. And I remember you being like, you looked at me and you go, well, yeah, let's see. If you want to do it, if you can keep up, you can keep doing it. And I was like, oh, okay, cool. And did it ever since.
Yeah.
That one decision to go there, there's no I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show if not.
Yeah.
How many people are heartbroken on this Thursday morning, if there are not this Thursday morning, but when they listen to it on a Thursday morning. But like, how many people are heartbroken?
Yeah.
There's so many
The
things.
ripple effect, like you talked about earlier, is pretty wild. Because now you're on podcast 300. This is 300.
300.
Now, on that note, before, sorry to sidestep that, but I fully expect, Bryce, you can do this. You're very creative. Since it's episode 300, I fully expect like my face, but like Leonidas's body for like 300.
I did not even think that was genius.
No, genius.
Holy
genius.
smokes, man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's my face. Leonidas's
that's a
body.
really good one. Okay. I got you.
Yeah.
That'll be the thumbnail.
Yeah.
Where am I? Who am I in the?
The guy I'm kicking into the pit. This is fun. Yeah.
Can Bryce be the guy that's getting kicked into the pit?
Yeah, let's do Bryce. Yeah. You can be, who would you be in that?
The girl in the movie.
Yeah. You're the one I look to and you just give me the nod.
Yep,
It's okay to kick him in.
Kick him in the.
Yep.
Oof, I don't think that's a good idea.
Yeah.
I don't think we should do it. All right, Kyle.
This is jiu-jitsu.
I like that. That would be this is the 300th episode of the I Suck at Jiu-Jitsu show.
That's kind of
Right?
long, but I like
Too
it.
long? Okay.
Yeah, no, I
okay.
like it. I like
yeah, I don't know. We'll have to play with it. So any other random Hit Squad notes, stories, anything else that you came with?
Oh man. I think I've told this story before too, but it's like, it's not necessarily, it's a Hit Squad for sure, but it's just like, I always think about those like kind of wild things where I remember at the time being like, what am I doing here? What am I doing here? And, like I got the opportunity, since I was involved with all the fighters, I had to corner a lot. And I went to all these places to corner. And the wildest one, because Fiore would set up these fights in just all these random places. And I don't know, I'm pretty sure I told you about Boonesville, Indiana. Did I tell you about Boonesville,
I don't know.
Indiana?
Maybe.
Okay.
Refresh my memory.
So Boonesville, Indiana, they set up a cage in the middle of a cornfield. And I kid you not, right next door to this cornfield was a closed down porn store. So this is where they had the fighter meeting. So we're in here having the fighter meeting. I'm looking up and here's Jenna Jameson advertising lubrication. And then here's a poster for this and that. And we're having the rules meeting.
So it had been closed down in a way that they just left stuff on the wall.
Just left it there. We're like, it was like things were falling apart in this place, like, right? And so much so that like I couldn't find they had porta potties because everything was outside. And I just went over and just peed inside of the of where we had the rules meeting. So yeah, it was that gross.
Just
and
in
weird.
the building?
In the
You
building,
just
just
peed
peed
in
in
the
the building. Yeah. So I mean, there was like a back area. It was like there was a back area like it was like a dirt floor, but
people don't get that. But sometimes fighters just have to be fighters.
yeah.
You know.
So anyway, but as the night went on, I remember I'm cornering again DJ Fuentes from Texas, and can you imagine what happens when it starts to turn nighttime and they just had a bunch of big spotlights on this cage? Like literally when DJ's fight started, his head was just full of bugs. There were bugs everywhere, like all just crawling in his hair, bugs everywhere. Cause it was just like, we're in a cornfield with spotlights.
That's crazy.
Boonesville, Indiana.
In the summer.
Yeah. I don't remember what time of year, but I mean, it was warm enough to be in a cornfield. Right. And then, and then we had our rules meeting in an abandoned porn place. So, I mean, that's pretty wild.
That's a lot you have a wild, something we didn't mention either was the amount of jiu-jitsu competition in those 3 years too. You had immediately convinced a group of us like, yeah, this is what you do with jiu-jitsu. You go compete, this will set you guys up for MMA if you ever need to fight MMA. Like, oh, okay.
8-hour road trips. Let's do this.
Yep. That was our first jiu-jitsu. My first jiu-jitsu tournament was the Ohio Grappling Challenge in Columbus, Ohio, which would have been, I think, 8 hours.
Yeah,
is
something like that.
Yep,
Yeah,
is your
7
drive.
hours.
Me, Derek McGuire, my dad came with us. Defendo, Mike Allen, the Silver Fox, some call him.
The ladies call him.
Will never be on the podcast. Just absolutely refuses to come on. Been begging him for years, won't do it. But all black belts now.
Yeah, that's wild. Oh yeah, that's pretty wild.
That's something that, in looking back, that was cool to me, was like seeing how many guys that came from the Hit Squad that maybe aren't in the UFC or aren't in anything, but they're still teaching. And they're still, own a gym, or there's a few different guys I think that own gyms. But it's back to that ripple effect. Yeah. But when I think about all those competitions, it's cool. You won Pans during the Hit Squad, right? I won Pans a week after it sold. So I think it would have been the last weekend in March of the year that it would have sold. A lot of really cool jiu-jitsu growth for us was there.
Yeah, absolutely. It was wild to think back and all the things. And I think it's that starts making you think too, like about like just legacy. It's odd lately. That's another thing, and not to dive down a super long rabbit hole, but it's just I've had conversations with multiple black belts recently. I won't say their names, but just which we talked about, like, what does retirement look like? What's your exit plan look like? And I thought that the questions or the conversation was like just unique, because I'm just like, man, I don't see not teaching. Our retirement, I think, wouldn't look like the traditional retirement. I don't even know how.
But our job doesn't look like the traditional job.
No, not at all. And I was just thinking about that. But there's been a couple people that teach that have actually said that they see themselves being completely done, maybe selling their gyms like that. And I'm like, man, I can't see that. I can see, like, having reduced responsibilities for sure.
Oh yeah.
But I don't know. And then but it is weird to sort of think, like, I'm 45 now. And think about, like, what do you want your legacy to be, and start thinking about those kind of things. But man, I'm just enjoying the ride. Like, whether it's just teaching every day or doing seminars or whatever, it's just like it's a pretty wild ride. And that whole, like you said, that ripple effect. Now that I have a bunch of black belts that are all like sharing with everybody else, and how popular jiu-jitsu has become, it's been pretty amazing to see.
What do you think your legacy is going to be? Or what do you want it to be?
I want it to be, I'm really glad. I think about this sometimes when I first opened the gym, and I wanted my own tagline, not nearly as cool as just like the real thing, only smaller. I wanted a tagline, and I made it the art of improvement, because I wanted it to be something like what I thought I want something that will last kind of the test of time if the gym continues to grow and it ends up being a business that succeeds. What's something that I hope down the road I wouldn't think, oh, that's super cliche, or that was trendy, like somebody getting a tattoo and then hating it later, you know what I mean? I didn't want to have like a motto that I like later down the road and be like, oh, that was stupid. It was just trendy at the time. I thought, I want everybody that walks in the door to feel like they improved. Of course, we want them to improve in jiu-jitsu, but I wanted them to improve in any or all of a lot of things, their life, like like we talk about all the time, stress relief and making friends and their health and all those things that you improve in, or you improve on your life just going to be a black belt, right? So I thought, well, I want everybody that walks in the door to improve, so I want Watts Martial Arts to be the art of improvement. And so anyway, back to your question was like, what do I want my legacy to be? I want my legacy to be that I lived that the gym actually succeeded in its motto, that over the course of the gym being open and the longevity of the business, that the vast majority, if not every single person that walked in the door, lived out the motto. It would really be what I would want the legacy to be.
That's a very good legacy. I like that.
Thanks.
So what do you think? Do you have? Let me go back. I don't remember who we were talking about this. This might have not been a podcast question. This might have been somebody else. Who were we talking about Mount Rushmore with, Bryce, of Midwest Jiu-Jitsu?
That's hard to remember.
tough to remember, but do you think that you're on the Mount Rushmore of Midwest Jiu-Jitsu?
No, I don't think so, man. I don't think so.
Give me 4 names that are on Mount Rushmore before Kyle Watson.
Well, I guess. Well, the reason why I think that'd be a hard one to answer is, I guess we'd have to kind of define what the people that are on there are up there for, because obviously, like, you know, somebody like some people make their name through competition, and you know, some people might make their name through they have like a ton of gyms, so everybody knows them, and so maybe more like name recognition. And some people might be up there for, you know, whatever, getting a cat out of a tall tree that was stranded, whatever it is, you know.
Give me 4 people, Kyle. I've got one.
Midwestern.
I've got one. I've got Heath.
Yeah.
Who else?
Okay. Yeah.
Who else do we got?
For sure, yeah.
That was the argument, Kyle. This was, I don't remember who we were arguing with. This must have not been on the podcast, but we were deep on it. I think that
How about you get, see, my problem is just thinking of people. Like if you gave me a list, I could agree or disagree, but like just me thinking people off the top of my head, I'd have
here's the tough thing about this list.
I'm better at jingles, remember?
I know, but here's the tough thing about the Midwest Jiu-Jitsu.
It's like drink Winter Wonderland. It feels so nice to be naughty. Right?
That's a good one.
Okay, all right.
That's a good one.
No,
I like that one.
Sorry. No? Okay.
I don't remember what I was saying, Kyle. I've lost my train of thought.
I said that I couldn't think of names. And you said, okay.
Okay, so the tough thing that I look at with Midwest Jiu-Jitsu, like Mount Rushmore, is to be on it, you got to have stayed in the Midwest. You can't leave. That's not that you lose your chance. You better go be on San Diego's Mount Rushmore. A lot harder to get on, brother.
Makes sense.
You know, and so yeah, I think I know I'm biased.
Yeah.
But I stand by that Kyle Watson's on Midwest Jiu-Jitsu Mount Rushmore.
Thanks.
And I'm just out here trying to do a big enough podcast that I can guarantee it, you know? Just like Kyle taught me one thing, Bryson. You'll get what he taught me. It was like 2 things really. So it was never about how much weight you could lift. It was always about how much weight the guys that you can beat up can lift.
That's
right?
true. That is so true.
That is more impressive, right?
Yes.
And then Kyle's also like, it's not about what you do. It's about what you teach people to do, and then they do.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And so that's pretty much my game plan is if I can just teach enough people to do jiu-jitsu themselves and teach jiu-jitsu themselves, then there will be this point where I'm just done and I don't have to do it, but it's like long-term investing. Like I'm just living off of dividends because, you know, Bryce is over here. He's the best teacher ever or something, you know? Bryce gets really popular.
That makes a lot of sense though.
Right?
But it's that ripple effect that you talk about, you know what I mean? It's like imparting in things like, you know, teaching him how to fish. While you were talking there, I thought of something like completely random, unrelated, but probably just a funny story. Did I ever tell you about that time that I stole that golf cart at that charity golfing event?
I would love to hear it again.
Did I tell? But I always feel bad if I told
you've
it
not told on the podcast. I don't think
okay,
you have.
Okay, all right. So what made me think of it? Let me tell it like this. Okay, so here I'm going to invoke Mark Fiore again. So Mark says, "Hey, come do this charity golf outing for Special Olympics." I'm like, I'm down. Let's do it. Okay. And Tommy Spear, do you remember Tommy Spear? Who was on the Ultimate Fighter? He was on the Ultimate Fighter, right? Yeah, he was on the Ultimate Fighter. He was in the UFC.
He was in the UFC.
But I'm pretty sure he was on the Ultimate Fighter.
He was on the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
I forgot who he lost to, but he was on the Ultimate Fighter.
Yeah.
He fought Anthony Rumble Johnson when Anthony Rumble Johnson was fighting at 170, and it
just
like
knocking fools out.
it like ruined his career.
Yeah.
I don't know how much he did after that.
Dang. Yeah, same with that was another UFC fighter because he ended. I think he kind of ended his career. I remember Charlie, the Spaniard, Charlie. God damn it, Charlie. I'm sorry. Yes.
Brenneman.
Brenneman, yes, Charlie Brenneman, yeah. Sorry, Charlie, I love you, buddy. But
he got Kitzler told a story about him on the podcast recently, and so hopefully you give him a good shout out, better shout out.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I haven't talked to the guy in forever. I love him, but I just forgot his last name. But yeah, so anyway, we're on this golf outing, but we drink a lot, right? We drink a lot, and Fiore multiple times would do that whole trick where he'd unlatch the strap that keeps the golf clubs in. So you'd take off and the golf clubs would go everywhere. He thought that was hilarious. I did too.
That's a great joke.
So anyways, I get pretty drunk. Okay. And I'm like, man, I got to go to the bathroom. Okay. I'm going to take the golf cart back. And I go and I pull up and I go in and I come out and I'm like, the golf cart's gone. It's gone. I'm like, the golf cart is gone. And I rationalize in my mind, someone stole our golf cart, so I'm going to steal someone else's.
Everyone's doing it, man.
Yeah. So I get in a different golf cart and I just take it. And I am, because I've been drinking too much, I'm like ramping things in this golf cart. I remember like a couple times hitting like so hard, whatever. We get back. And then one of the guys is with us like, where are the clubs? And I was like, man, somebody stole our golf cart. I had to just get this one, whatever. And like, what are you talking about? And so I was really confused. So anyways, here's what happened. So we drive back hoping, they brought theirs back.
Hopefully they corrected their mistake.
Yeah. So here's what happened. When we pull up, I realized that there was 2 doors of this building and our golf cart was still there the whole time. I went in one, but came out a different door and thought our golf cart was gone. It was there the whole time. So I just ended up stealing someone's golf cart.
Oh my gosh.
But the whole reason I even remembered that story was because Fiore's father-in-law was with us. And I'm terrible at golfing. Terrible. I'm terrible. I think I've probably been 3 times my whole life. And I'm hitting nothing but like mud. I'm like just can't hit the ball. And this guy the whole time is just razzing me. He's just like, basically just, you suck. Saying all these things like just every time I would swing, he'd be, just like rolling his eyes, making these. And finally I had enough. And I was like, listen, man, I'm good at things that matter, like beating people up. I got pissed about it. I'm just like that's what made me think when you said it's not how much people can bench, it's how much, how beating up people, how much people bench that you can beat up. And that's what I was thinking. I was like, I don't care how good at golf you are, old man. I am going to beat you up and throw you in this. I'm going to be like the Price is Wrong bitch.
I was just about to say that didn't work for Happy Gilmore, man.
Exactly. So anyway, but I don't know. That whole thing just made me think about stealing someone else's golf cart.
That's the exact type of mischief that I feel like most of my Kyle Watson stories are. It's like just subtly mischievous.
Yes.
Nothing anything bad.
Nothing crazy.
But it's just enough to be like, hey, you guys shouldn't have done that. Like, hey, why did you guys do that? You're adults. Well, a lot of the times like, well, I was a child,
Yes.
But then when I became an adult, it was no better, I always feel like we've gotten reprimanded at jiu-jitsu tournaments for like, you guys stop messing around.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, sorry. We'll take it.
Yeah.
We'll take it seriously.
Well, I used to say that all the time. I was like, when we go to tournaments, I was like, we may not be the best team here, but I guarantee you we're having the most fun.
Oh, yeah. My favorite tournament line ever, and I don't do this as much anymore, but used to do this every tournament, is you'd get the whole team together, and you would be really serious. And you'd be like, okay, guys, I just want you to remember, like, this is jiu-jitsu tournament, okay? So the worst thing that could happen is that you could die. And you would say it so deadpan, and people would be like on their toes, leaning in to hear what you're about to say, like so nervous. And you would say you could die, and the panic would hit, and then they would be like, "Oh, he's kidding." Okay.
But no, but seriously.
It only happens like once or twice per tournament. Do you any tournament highlights that you think of from the Hit Squad days?
Oh man. Gosh, I can't remember that. I'm old, man. That's like
I have
decades ago.
I think I have a few that are pretty solid.
Lay it on me.
I've got. Do you remember that time that we went to? Might have been Indianapolis, something like that. But you were gonna fight a guy there's a guy Justin Kitzer was competing against, and I want to say he headbutted or elbowed Justin, and he did it twice. And you started arguing like that it was on purpose, and it probably was, but you weren't having it.
Weren't playing games.
Yeah, you were gonna fight. You remember that one?
Mm-mm.
I feel like that was, I learned to fight referees and event coordinators from my coach. Like very much like you hear of like a civil rights story where someone's like sitting on the sideline and they see something happen and they're like, no, this will not stand. This is today.
This is my moment.
This is a systematic problem,
Yeah.
and it is getting addressed now.
Yes.
And I have seen so many tournaments be argued Kyle Watson wise like that about like, and the event coordinator's like, bro, everybody's already home.
Yeah.
Like, what do you want us to do? The medal's already in Indianapolis. Like, what can we do about this?
Well, and that's the bad thing too, is I feel like, I know I'm leading by example and I probably shouldn't do that, but I feel like every tournament I get into an argument with the ref. And the bad thing is that either at some point I'm going to be reffed by that guy or I'm actually going to be fighting that guy in a match.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And the worst is, I remember this specifically, not this last St. Louis Open, but the one before.
I can see the guy's face who you were attacking.
I know.
I've been waiting for him to jump in a division and do an open class.
Yeah, I was so angry like about this call. And I was mad, and he just seemed like so calm. Like, no, I'm gonna get the head ref over here. Head ref came over. They chatted about it a little bit. Then the guy started talking to me, and then it turns out, I was wrong. Son of a bitch. The worst part is everybody sees me get just irate. Everybody hears the argument. Then they see the exact moment in time I realize I was wrong.
Oh no!
And it's like I had to eat it. And I'm one of those. My wife knows this about me. Like, I will admit when I'm wrong.
Oh yeah.
I will admit it, but it's just like having to swallow your pride and be like, okay, I'm sorry. You're right. Oh, it hurts so bad.
It really does. Like, yeah, I was the jerk in this.
Yeah.
That's such a frustrating thing when it comes to tournaments. But sometimes,
it's warranted.
Sometimes they do screw you over, and there is a reason that you are angry. Worst screw over I've ever gotten wasn't even me.
Yeah.
It was when Bryce darsed the kid unconscious at the end of a match. He's down on points. The kid gets up right after, and we're like, hey, he's unconscious. He's sleeping for 2 or 3 seconds. He's out.
Yeah.
And they're like, but the match was over. I'm like, that sucks. That's the rule, though. Yeah. Kid stands up before his hand's raised. Starts puking. Bro, projectile vomiting. Like everywhere. Won't stop. Can't stop.
Yeah.
Just keeps going. He runs off the mat. They DQ him, as they should have. The rule is. His hand was not raised. They're still on the mat. We go over to the podium, and I see the names, and my guy's in second place. And it was the final. And I walk up, and I go, hey, this is wrong. This says, and before I get the words out, the girl goes, oh, you need to talk to the event coordinator. And I'm like, oh, this ain't going to fly. And I don't say anything. I have all of the crazies of my team with me, so I'm not going to say a word. I'm just going to walk over. I don't want to cause a scene. I want to see what's going on, right? And so I start talking to these guys, and I'm like, man, these guys must have heard my podcast or something. I've never gotten this much respect before. These guys are really being respectful to me, and we're talking about the situation, and it seems like I went over knowing I had no chance of talking about any. They're like, nah, screw you. But it wasn't like that. And I'm like, this is awesome. These guys are really, it almost feels like they're scared of me. That's the best way to say it. The situation ends. I get screwed over, of course. But I turn around and Eric Arias is standing behind me, and he'd been mean mugging, like standing right over my shoulder, mean mugging everybody the whole time. So through all the conversations, they were scared because Eric with a face tat was standing behind me, ready to go. And I go, Eric, I didn't even say anything. How did you know? He goes, I saw you talk to the ring coordinator, and he goes, I saw you posture up, and I go, oh, I got to go with Josh. I got to have his back. So, yeah, that was the worst screw job we ever got. But to be fair, it was a white belt gold medal, and that kid's life is ruined. You know, I don't know what they call him. I don't know what his real name is, but we call him Ralph. He looked like Ralph from Ed, Edd and Eddy too, which makes it 10 times funnier. It was like, what was that character from Ed, Edd and Eddy? And then we're like, oh my gosh, his name was Ralph. And so 10 out of 10, definitely. Yeah. I won't tarnish his name anymore, but honestly, there are more layers to the story that are even worse, but I won't. We'll let Ralph, R.I.P. Ralph.
R.I.P.
Kyle, you have anything to say to finish?
No, I just appreciate you having me on, and I will hopefully next time we do this, I'll have some more jingles for you.
I think I might just see how many sponsors of that one episode we can get, and then you just give them jingles.
Oh, that'd be
you know
amazing.
What I mean? Just be like, that will be the whole episode. It's like, this episode is just this promotion.
Yes. We'd like get some kind of round table of the sponsors, and I'll come to it, and I'll just start dealing out slogans.
Or what would be really fun too is if you just started to like try to get really important people on the podcast, like get Bernardo on, and then like as soon as he pops on, not actually interview him, just be like, hey Bernardo, we have this tagline for BJJ Fanatics, dude. What do you like? What would be BJJ Fanatics' new tagline? I don't know. Are you a BJJ fanatic? Then buy these instructionals,
Well, I feel like the bad thing is like it's got like Bryce was alluding to. I wasn't trying to, but I feel like every tagline I come up with is like sexual.
Yeah, they're very
sexual. Not trying to make it that way, but
yeah,
like with jiu-jitsu would be inevitable. I don't know. So, but maybe that can be our cliffhanger. Is that next time I'm on, I'll have a good one ready for BJJ Fanatics.
Perfect.
And let me just say this, get this out in the open too, because Bryce and I were talking off air, and that he was agreeing that idea about drawing, whether you're going to fight MMA, gi or no gi, like doing a match like that. I'm just saying out in public that is my idea. If you try to steal it, I'm coming after you.
I like that.
But I'll come up with a tagline for that too.
I like that. You know what? I'll even say this, Kyle.
What's that?
If anybody wants to fight Josh McKinney in the 3 ways, in the triple threat, the triple threat, it has to be combat jiu-jitsu. People aren't going to sign up for MMA, and I can't fight. So that's a twofer that really hurts us.
The triple threat.
But yeah, we'll go gi, no gi, or combat.
Jiu-jitsu.
And then that'll be the
draw names. The triple threat. Well, yeah, we'll think of a good name. Triple stack.
And so if anyone wants to challenge me to the triple threat, then you'll be doomed. Unless of course you get no gi or combat jiu-jitsu, then I'm in trouble. But as long as you have to throw the gi on, you're in
we could
trouble.
even add in like rock paper scissors too, just like as a fourth option.
What about you do 4 things?
Okay.
Gi, no gi. I don't know. How about we do 3? But then after that, then you do another 3 and you draw whether you're starting from the feet, starting in guard, or starting a bad position. Then the third draw, because it's the triple threat.
Okay.
The third draw
triple
is just, well, I mean, actually the third one's just a coin flip. Who's on top, who's on bottom of the position.
Dang.
Right?
Yeah.
Are you that well-rounded? Can you prove that in any circumstance you have the best jiu-jitsu?
Yeah. Well, I do that sometimes at the gym too, and that it does make it exciting because I try to like do different scenarios that sometimes are not actually productive, but just fun. And we'll do rock, paper, scissors, and then the winner picks the position, but the loser picks top or bottom.
Ooh.
So then that makes it,
That's a good one.
You know what I mean?
So we'll do a few things like that, or we'll do like you play rock, paper, scissors, and the winner always starts in the better position of the position we're sparring. But my favorite one is I'll be like, okay, guys, we're going to just do 3-minute normal rounds, but they all start from mount, and we'll do however many in a row of them. And like, who starts on top? Like, whoever's better looking. You know, the better looking person starts on top. And then, like, if you can't agree on who's better looking, then you can rock, paper, scissors. But we all know. You know, like, yeah, you lay on your back over there, buddy. You know,
have you ever seen the position? I've been doing not lately, but for a while I was on this kick just because it makes really exciting scrambles. Have you ever heard of the position cat dog?
Which one is that? Is that where you're holding each other's ankles?
No, that's not right.
No,
that's right. No, that is Bryce. Shut up, grow up, Bryce. Anyways, no, that is where. It's funny because Lachlan, I think, even has a whole like thing on it, but it's like imagine we're both in turtle facing opposite directions and we have one arm around the other person's waist.
Okay, well, that's what I meant, but I was playing the game where you hold the person's ankle from that position, like you pin their ankle.
Oh, I didn't know.
Chill out.
Okay.
Why are you guys so weird?
Yeah.
Why are you and Bryce trying to sexualize everything?
But you should do that because it's fun to watch if you hadn't, because it's just like you get in some crazy scrambles.
I love those scramble games. Yeah. We didn't get into this, but there were some crazy injuries from the games played at the Hit Squad.
Yeah.
There were some. I still remember this guy, Kenny, came in on night 1. Mm-hmm. I can still see his face. Mm-hmm. Night 1, thrilled to be there. So happy to be at jiu-jitsu class. We start playing elbow tag. And elbow tag, how it works is to get on base, you interlock arms with somebody. But if it's only 2 people on base, and then if somebody comes up and like maybe me and Kyle are interlocked arms, somebody interlocks arms with me on the other side, then Kyle is no longer on base. He has to disconnect and either run around to the other side or just run away. And it's literally just tag, like adults playing tag, right? Yeah. And so I can see Kenny running a full sprint after somebody. I don't know who it is, but no warm-up. 3 minutes into his jiu-jitsu career, man. He Supermans. He jumps and he lays out, and I don't know whether or not he tagged the guy, but I know on impact his jiu-jitsu career was over. He blew his hip out, man.
Are you serious?
He tore his hip flexor or something.
Dang.
Retired him. Retired him. Never did a rep of jiu-jitsu.
R.I.P. Kenny.
R.I.P. Kenny. And that was just some of the games. That stuff. There was a point where we stopped playing warm-up games because while we were playing quote unquote warm-up games that involve full sprints and explosive movements, we were getting injuries. People were breaking limbs.
Yes.
And so we just decided to keep our injuries for jiu-jitsu.
Oh, man. Yeah. Dang. Hit Squad, man.
Any other Hit Squad shout outs? Anybody we didn't mention? Anybody that needed a shout out for the ode to the Hit Squad episode?
Man, we've brought up this guy before, just because he's just emblazoned in my mind. Like, I feel so bad for him. Do you remember the guy? He drove from Pennsylvania. Do you remember the guy who drove all night and his free? He had one practice and then he was gone. Do you remember that guy?
I don't. I think you could
elaborate a little bit. Oh my gosh, it was so terrible. I won't get too far into it, but yeah, this guy shows up and he does pro practice, and he had never like trained before, like but it was like the conditioning, like the morning conditioning, and I just remember like it was terrible. This dude drove. I think they said, I don't know how long the drive is. I swore someone said it was like 17 hours. Does that sound right? Pennsylvania,
that
17
right,
hours.
yeah.
Okay, so this kid drives 17 hours. Like moves it or like gets into the dorm, does the first practice the next day with Hughes, and he just, you know how kind of I was saying before, like how Hughes would kind of find that weak link. Well, this was the guy, but the problem is, guy hadn't trained, hadn't really done anything. He stops practice, makes everybody go to the long end of the mats, and he just calls this guy out, and he's like, oh, nobody's gonna be at my pro, or no one is gonna be at my pro practice and be out of shape. So he makes the dude put a 45-pound plate on his back and just starts making him do lunges. And he's like, you're going to do these till I say stop. And this guy's like, everybody's watching. And we're like all start rooting him on because we start feeling bad because he's starting to shake. Like you see his legs just giving out. And the dude looks like he's about to bust out in tears. And he's like, his legs shaking. He's just doing lunge after lunge after lunge with this 45-pound blade on your back. And imagine if you're out of shape and you don't, you know, and all these guys are like, you can do it.
You've never done a lunge, you know?
They're like, you can do it, man. Keep going, keep going, keep going. Finally, he just like get his legs like kind of give out or whatever. He goes, packs all his shit, drives 17 hours back.
Oh, man.
Oh, man. I was like, I don't even remember what the guy's name is.
I hope they got
RIP, Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania. I hope they got the $900 up front from him, man.
Holy moly. That one's terrible.
I saw some wild practices, some wild beatdown practices. Some would say now they would use terms like bullying or hazing.
Yeah.
But me and Kitzler talked about this. It was just life back then. But the one that always sticks out, and I think we even talked about this on my dad's episode that we three were on, but was the dude being 30 pounds overweight for 3 days out. And as a way to help him cut weight, Robbie and Matt, 3 days out from the fight, ruthlessly beat him. Just listen, this dude, I don't remember. The whole practice was built around this dude being 30 pounds overweight 3 days out.
Yeah.
And it was like, we're all suffering for this dude being overweight. But the only part of the practice that I remember, me and my dad are sitting, there was like a place on the incline bench where the spotter could stand. It was like a platform. And we would sit there and watch the pro class. And so this dude's head is 12 inches from us. You know, he's, aiming towards us. And like Matt has him in mount with boxing gloves. This guy doesn't have boxing gloves. I don't know what this sparring is, but he doesn't have boxing gloves. And Matt's just punching him. Not hard, but just constantly.
Yeah.
And then every once in a while, like Robbie would tag in. But then you would get this 5 seconds where they both could be in. And so they could trade mount pretty well. He would fight, but then they would trade mount, and then he would be covered, and they would just be beating him again. And they did this for what felt like 30 minutes.
Yeah.
This dude got beat down. He had to go fight that weekend. Then, imagine this. He won the first round, gassed hard the second round. And they were like, I don't know why this guy was gassed. Because he fought 5 fights on Thursday, and they were all set for him to lose.
Yeah.
Maybe he should have saved those fights for Saturday.
Yeah. That's wild. There was definitely some interesting hazing for sure.
Oh yeah, or guys being in a 300-degree sauna just cooking for however long you guys had to do that for.
Yeah, it was like, hey, this one guy has to lose weight, so we're all gonna lose weight.
We're gonna all lose 20 pounds today.
It was like, ugh.
Like, I hate that guy.
Yeah, no doubt. It was. I remember like I've used that story multiple times. Like one, I felt, I don't know why I keep thinking like multiple casualties to my lips, but like one was Robbie melting my lips off with a dodgeball at point blank because I turned and it like did that, and then it feeling like my lips and ears and nose were burning off in the sauna because Hughes would block the door and then spin the towels and make, there's 10 dudes in a sauna and we'd stay in there until like we were almost about to pass out,
Man.
Rough.
Makes you a better fighter, though.
I guess.
Makes you You're tough. You're tough now. All right, Kyle. I think that's all I have, unless there's anything for you to add. Anything you want to say to finish?
No, just a reminder, Bryce, Leonidas abs.
Leonidas abs. That's the only reason you really wanted to do it, was for the abs. I like that. Can we use a goatee picture of Kyle Watson for it?
Sure.
Because that would fit better.
Sure.
Absolutely. I'm sure there's some great ones. I'm sure there's some great ones. We'll really, man, we got to put this out on Thursday. I can edit the thumbnail, Bryce, and you can get to editing this podcast, and then, I don't know, editing out whatever we got to edit out. There's a lot to do.
Pee breaks.
I edit out all the pee breaks. All right, Kyle, thank you for being on, man.
Thanks for inviting me, buddy.